Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying, and maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the 15th of April. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, the US is hopeful of a great trade deal with the UK. That's according to the new Vice President J.D. Vance. Not pictured. Oh, there he is. He says that Donald Trump loves the UK, adding a mutually beneficial agreement is on the horizon. Does this special relationship remain fully intact? We'll be speaking to the very man who spoke to J.D. Vance, the man behind that insightful interview.
Yes, stay tuned for that. But meanwhile, stench warfare continues in Birmingham. Yes, the Unite Union is very much digging its heels in over these ongoing bin strikes, and they're even threatening nationwide action. Could we be approaching a summer of smelly discontent? We're hearing from a Unite boss and strike leader in the next few minutes.
And we'll be speaking to a man fresh from the celebrity Big Brother house. Yes, Sir Michael Fabricant will be here. He became the first contestant to leave the house following the public votes this year over on ITV. Well, stay with us for an unfiltered insight into the show, which could be the most controversial season ever.
Is Ed Miliband looking rather silly over this British Steel issue? Because I think he is, actually, because he talks a big game, doesn't he, when it comes to our green credentials, when it comes to decarbonisation, reaching those net zero goals. But when we realise that an industry is failing and is about to collapse, what do? We ship in the coal from Japan, we ship in the coal from Australia, we ship it in from the United States, thousands of miles across the world, the furthest corners of the globe. And that's all right, because at least we're not making it here.
Well, I mean, it does just show that there is absolutely no logic at all behind this sort of proto-nationalisation of British Steel. If the genuine reason why they want to nationalise this industry, or at least temporarily nationalise it until they can find a buyer to sustainably make it here, the reason behind that, they say, is we need a supply chain in this country. We need to provide steel in this country, particularly for our armed forces. But if we can't make this steel in this country without coal imported from other countries, then why are we worried about making it in this country at all? Why not just import the steel?
That's absolutely right, yes. We're only doing the last bit in this country, whereas all the supplies, all the product is actually coming from very far afield.
Which is not a secure supply chain at all.
No.
I think, actually, there were only 2 members of the House of Lords to speak out against what the government was doing in the round when this was debated on Saturday. And one of them was a guy called Daniel Hannan. He's a Conservative peer. And he made the point that...
Clever man.
The way that you secure your supply chains isn't to rely on just one sort of production facility or even one country is to have a massively diversitised supply chain, which we currently do. We import steel from dozens of countries around the world.
Well, I wonder at home who would support reopening coal mines, or at least allowing them to be and live and produce in this country. Let us know, gbnews.com/your say. But it is the headlines with Sam Francis.
Tom, Emily, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you. Just after midday, the US Vice President says there is a good chance of a trade deal with the UK, and the talks are already underway with the Keir Starmer government. JD Vance says that both sides are working very hard, but the UK's Trade Minister admits there is still no timeline at this stage. Well, British exports to the US currently face a 10% tariff, and even higher for cars, steel and aluminium. At the same time, Washington has launched new national security probes into semiconductor and pharma imports, which could end tariff exemptions. And in Asia, China's president is urging Vietnam to join him in opposing what he calls unilateral bullying on trade. In Birmingham, meanwhile, bin strikes, they're set to continue after workers overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer. Unite says the deal fails to address potential pay cuts of up to £8,000 and could impact hundreds of workers. Military planners have now been called in, with 11,000 tonnes of rubbish already cleared from the city streets. But public health fears are still growing, with dead animals found in parks and some residents reporting rat infestations. However, the council says its offer to workers was fair and its doors remain open. Supplies of coking coal and iron ore from the United States are arriving at Immingham today to keep British Steel's blast furnaces running. They'll be transported to Scunthorpe, enough to keep the fires lit for at least the coming weeks, according to the government. And a second shipment is also on its way from Australia after a legal dispute was resolved. It follows emergency action to stop Chinese owners from shutting the furnaces down. The Business Secretary will be at the docks later today. He's expected to say that UK steel industry depends on keeping the furnaces going. In other news, a man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a fatal house explosion in Nottinghamshire. Emergency crews were called to John Street in Worksop on Saturday evening, where 53-year-old David Howard was sadly found dead under debris. A 43-year-old man has been questioned and has now been bailed while inquiries continue. The cause of the blast remains unknown at this stage, and police say they're keeping an open mind, while David's family is being supported and detectives are urging anyone with information to come forward. Russia's top spy chief says that Moscow and Minsk are ready to act proactively in response to NATO activity near Ukraine. Sergei Naryshkin claims that European escalation is fueling the need for coordinated security measures with Belarus. He's also warned that if NATO attacks, the alliance will face, he says, damage, but also says that Poland and the Baltic states would suffer first. In France, multiple prisons have come under attack overnight in what officials fear may have been a coordinated assault. Gunfire was reported at Toulon prison, while arson and vandalism hit sites in Marseille and 8 other cities. Cars were torched and walls were sprayed with the letters DDPF, possibly linked to prisoner rights groups. Sources suggest far-left extremists may have been targeting new high-security prison plans. We're also expecting to hear from the French Justice Minister later today as he meets shaken staff and addresses the nation. The UK is pledging £120 million in new aid for Sudan as the country marks 2 years of brutal civil war. The Foreign Secretary David Lammy has announced that package earlier today at a London summit. He said a stable Sudan is vital for global security and the UK won't let it be forgotten. He also said the world has looked away for too long and warned the conflict is fueling famine, displacement and migration. Well, the new money now brings Britain's total Sudan aid to over £230 million since November. And the UK jobs market is showing fresh signs of strain, with vacancies falling below pre-pandemic levels for the first time now in nearly 4 years. New data shows 78,000 fewer employees in March, the sharpest drop since early 2020. Wage growth, though, stayed strong, rising 5.9%, but economists warn the slowdown is likely after this month's tax and minimum wage hikes. And the Bank of England is now under pressure to cut interest rates at its next meeting in May. And with those US tariffs looming, the UK economy could face another hit from slowing global trade. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for another look at the top stories in around half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes past midday. Now, hardline union bosses are threatening to spread their bin strikes beyond Birmingham and out to the rest of the country. Lucky us.
Yes, lucky us. It is, of course, it comes as striking bin workers reject the council's latest pay offer overwhelmingly, despite being implored to accept the deal by the likes of Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, who has traditionally been on the side of the unions.
Absolutely. It's strange now, given that the council and the government are saying to the workers, accept this deal, but the unions still are not. Let's go straight to Birmingham now. Our West Midlands reporter Jack Carson is with one of the strike leaders. Jack.
Yeah, good afternoon to you both. As you were saying, 97% of the striking bin workers rejecting the latest offer from Birmingham City Council. Let's speak now to Onai Kassab, who's Unite's National Lead Officer. Onai, thank you so much for speaking to us this afternoon. Why did your workers reject this offer put on the table?
The offer, and if we can call it an offer, is really inadequate. It deals with one very small area, it deals with a minority of people, and ultimately it means a pay cut. So when the council talk about nobody needs to lose pay, it is plain wrong. The proposal that they have put forward leads to a pay cut. It really is that straightforward and that simple. But also in the proposal, they failed to discuss what they're going to do with the drivers, because in the negotiations, they told us that they are looking at downgrading drivers' pay. That goes down from £40,000 to £32,000 a year. That's around 200 people. None of that was mentioned in the proposal. So we need to know what's going on with pay for drivers as well. And it's inadequate. That's why it was turned down.
So you're saying now that there are two sides to this. It's not just the waste and recycling collection officer role, which is initially what this dispute started over. There's now a situation with drivers too, and it's assurances for both of those before a deal can be reached.
Yes, I mean, some weeks ago we did let it be known that the employers in negotiations had put that on the table, that they were going to be having a go at drivers' pay. We can't have a dispute where we try and resolve the worker role and then the employer comes along and says, while we're trying to resolve that, by the way, here's what we're going to do to drivers' pay, potentially impacting another 200 people. That is not how you resolve a dispute. So now, as a result of that, in order to resolve this dispute, both sets need to be sorted, both the worker role and the driver pay.
Now, in the offer, it's thought that compensation was offered to people ranging between £7,000 for some people £16,000. Now, that for a lot of people might seem like a lot of money, but why, therefore, was that rejected? Is it because of long-term assurances on pay? Why, for you, was that compensation figure rejected by your members?
I think two reasons. First of all, this is a lump sum. So not everybody's going to be getting the £16,000. Let's be very clear about that. It's for a minority of people. But you can take that, but then you see a sharp drop in your pay. That's the reality. So it may be pay protection for a little while, but you will then see a sharp drop in your pay. And also the fact that the driver's pay wasn't included in the proposal, about what's going on there, what's happening. Look, because what we can't allow to happen is us say, well, look, they didn't include it in the paperwork, maybe they're not going to do it. Let's close our eyes and ears and walk away and maybe they'll forget. Absolutely not what's going to happen. You know, what we can't allow is a situation where we sort out the worker role, he go back to work, and then lo and behold, driver's pay is attacked at that point as well. It's all got to be done now. And look, it is resolvable. There are solutions. Although this is a big, huge dispute with massive repercussions, it is resolvable. We have put solutions on the table, and we'll go back into the meetings tomorrow, and we will put those solutions again to the employer and hope that they listen.
What are those solutions?
Well, look, as far as the driver pay is concerned, the issue is this. Without go into all of the technicalities and going into the reads. It's about job evaluation. It's about how you evaluate and grade a job. And my question is, what is a driver doing today that he or she is not going to be doing tomorrow? So there should be no change to that grade. So just leave it alone. And as far as the worker role is concerned, there are a number of solutions and resolutions. I don't want to put all of those on camera to the media now. I want to put those to the employer tomorrow, but we can work through those.
And there are reports today around situations of these strikes happening across the country. What is the possibility of that?
That very much depends on employers. You know, we're not going to go looking for industrial disputes. However, if local authorities or contractors who provide refuse services for local authorities insist that they are going to cut the pay and conditions of our members, then we make absolutely no apology for the fact that we will defend those members' pay and conditions.
Hygiene, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, giving us the point of Unite the Union, their perspective. Of course, as 97% of their members, when offered the Birmingham City pay deal, rejected that. And with that rejection, as you heard there, talks continue tomorrow. And meanwhile, this dispute continues.
OK, well, Jack Carson, thank you very much indeed for joining us there live outside Birmingham City Hall.
Yeah, I'm slightly concerned about the warnings that this could escalate around the country. I mean, if that were to happen, I mean, it looks like it may be happening in Sheffield. It looks like the Unite staff are already on strike there to a lesser degree. Peterborough and Sheffield are likely to also experience disruption next when it comes to bin collections and the like, because there are these ongoing rows over pay. This could spread if the unions are going to be militant and they're going to continue on with this tactic. It could be that it's more than just Birmingham affected and Sheffield, but in the entire country.
And yet it's bonkers, because we all know, we've been reporting on it since 2023 when they filed their notice. Birmingham City Council is bankrupt. They don't have any money. Where is this money supposed to come from? They've already raised their taxes the highest in the country. I mean, how on earth are they going to spend all this extra money that the unions want them to spend?
Well, shall we speak to the Labour activist Chris Worrell? Chris, thank you very much indeed. Is Unite out of touch here, Chris? As Tom was just saying, the council is unfortunately in dire straits, and them's the breaks.
Well, we've seen bins piling up like it's a Banksy installation in Birmingham, and Unite, what we've got to remember, has initially been striking over a role that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. But we've got to, support any workers that can see their pay being cut. But the Labour Council has made what they argue is a fair and reasonable offer where no one's going to lose any pay, as well as offering promotions to drivers to sort of learn and, be promoted to sort of LGV, the sort of larger vehicles. And I think we're going to be, and there's also offering voluntary redundancies. We're seeing the Labour Council having to sort of put boots on the ground to remove this rubbish, but it turns out equality is expensive. Remember, this council has been facing bankruptcy as a result of Equality Act pay issues around women, and this WRCO role was predominantly men, and it seems to have failed the Equality Act test. And this is something that the Unite union had put in place in 2017 that seems to have been coming a cropper. So I've got sympathy with the council trying to make sure that it doesn't go bankrupt and make sure that these liabilities are reduced. But if there's no clear distinction in duties compared to other roles, I think they've got to come to the table. But if they are going to be cutting wider drivers' pay, which I've not heard about before, then you can maybe sort of have some sympathy with the workers there.
No, I think you raise a good point in that this role that they're cutting, I think it's 4 bin men per lorry in Birmingham, and most of the rest of the country, it's 3 bin men per lorry. I mean, most of the rest of the country doesn't suffer greater accident rates, doesn't suffer worse bin collection than Birmingham. It seems like this is a union-imposed demand that is overstaffing a job that could be done by 3 people, and instead they're demanding 4 people do it. I mean, it's the most classic sort of union sort of heel-dragging that can often just limit the efficiency of public services.
Well, look, I think that role that was put in place was meant to be doing something like health and safety assurances and using some technology for data entry, but it was shortly removed thereafter, which is why it's come under this sort of Equality Act issue, because, are they doing anything different for this extra money? Now, what the council has provided these workers is, reassignment with equivalent pay grades. Now, workers who are doing these hard-working jobs, as we've seen, are critical to, you know, how we live our day-to-day life. So we've got to have sympathy with the workers. I'm a big believer in freedom of association.
Chris, it's not that surprising, though, is it, Chris, that perhaps some of these unions feel emboldened? I mean, it was one of the first things that the Labour government did, was to just give pay rises to junior doctors, give pay rises to the train drivers without asking for anything, really, in return. So if I was a Unite boss, I'd be thinking, yeah, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to threaten a nationwide strike, and I'm going to get what I want.
Look, I think the threats of nationwide strikes are a bit overplayed, like we've established.
Well, not really. They've been saying it.
Well, it's been, you know, we see in Birmingham they've had a role that no one else has. I think, you know, more widely, when we talk about paying doctors and nurses, you know, more paid junior doctors, we've been seeing that that's going to be threats to our NHS. But Labour has stepped up to the plate there, and we've got to remember these people have faced, you know, underinflated, you know, pay rises that have been making that cost of living really bite. So we've got to thank the Labour government for sort of quelling those concerns. And I think the reasonable offer that's been put on the table they've rejected, you know, if they come back to the table and sort it out, it's been 6 weeks now. Other places have managed to do it quicker. So maybe they need to get on with it.
All right, Chris Worrell, thank you very much indeed. Labour activist there. On the side of the council, really, on this one.
Yeah, but I do think that is actually a fairly... They've reached this sort of fairly reasonable position. I mean, it would be nice for them to reach it earlier, but, I mean, it's extraordinary that the unions can just hold the council...
I will show a bit of empathy, though, towards those who have had their pay cut by a huge amount because their role's just been decided that it's no longer needed. That's not great, is it?
But that's life.
Yeah, but
I mean, yes, it's
that's why you get a union, and then you can, you know, bully your way out of it.
But why? Why though? I mean, if the result if the result of bullying an employer out of making efficiencies is that employer goes bust, who wins? No one wins.
Yeah, we can always call on the taxpayer, can't you? More council tax.
Oh, good.
But also, there is a lot of grievance over the fact that the council leaders have had a pay increase. You've also got some very expensive jobs within the council at the same time.
Absolutely. We've got to move on, though, because overnight several French prisons came under attack, ranging from burning vehicles and firing automatic weapons. Let's get more on this with our national reporter, Charlie Peters, joining us live in the studio. Charlie, what on earth is going on in France?
Well, Tom and Emily are just getting the latest detail here that France's anti-terrorism prosecutors department is now investigating these attacks, which they say started on April the 13th, so actually Sunday into the early hours of this morning on several French prisons, particularly in the south, in Toulon and around Marseille, with the French Interior Minister, Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin, confirming today that attacks have been carried out with automatic weapons and also cars being set ablaze. So that is the prison in Toulon. That is one of the impacts of bullets fired from an automatic weapon into the entrance hall. We understand that at least 7 rounds were fired into the area by automatic weapon fire. The shooters were in cars with several individuals and they then fled the scene in the early hours of this morning. The police there saying they discovered 7 bullet holes on the ground. You're now seeing photos of burning cars. 2 prison staff cars were burned in the parking lot in Valence, which is near a different area in the country which also had a situation, which is Marseille, which, according to the information that we're receiving from Le Parisien newspaper, that this was an attack on a residence which known to house prison guards accommodation in the north of the city. But 2 cars were burned in Valence, which you're looking at now. For those listening on the radio, this is quite an open car park with a serious fire erupting right in the middle, very close to the gates around the prison. 2 cars were burned and 9 were tagged with the words DDPF. Now, the DDPF is a relation to some anarchist groups within France. So it's a tag that they've used. So some sources in France suggesting that this could be from the far left. However, French Interior and Justice Ministry sources are suggesting that this is actually being conducted by drug trafficking gangs. Now, that minister said he's going to Toulon to support the officers concerned. He says the French Republic is facing up to the problem of drug trafficking and is taking measures that will disrupt these criminal networks. So a big discussion in France now. Are these attacks from those drug gangs in the face of their prison policy and their recent crackdown on these gangs, or is it the work of members of the far left? And perhaps most concerning of all, could they be working together to set cars on fire and fire rounds directly at prison gates?
No, really, really concerning. I mean, the last time that rounds were fired at the prison gates in Toulon was by Napoleon, perhaps. But there we go. Charlie Peters, do keep us up to date with that story as it develops. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more coming on today's programme, of course, including a shocking story that NHS trusts are fast-tracking ethnic minority groups to top jobs so that they can meet their diversity quotas. Much more on that bizarre story after this.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
If you've read Spare, you'll know that Prince Harry's very open, isn't he, about his drug taking in the past. So it's going to be interesting to see if he was honest in his visa application.
Well, we're absolutely waiting for it. Yes, he admitted he took cannabis, cocaine and magic mushrooms, as we know in Spare, and also the Netflix series. He said that. There's been so much talk about it, and obviously Judge Carl Nichols originally said he refused to release any footage, saying that he basically because of Prince Harry's privacy. But as we know, Trump, border security and application of rule is one of his priorities. And I do see Harry as a pawn, really, for Trump and collateral. So everyone's waiting to see what happens. Tuesday is the day, D-Day. We don't know whether Prince Harry is quaking in his boots. But, he quit being a working royal. Well, did he get preferential treatment? We don't know. There is possible misconduct. Apparently, DHS says that actually releasing the paperwork won't shed any light onto how things work. But there are thoughts as well that he could have entered on a special visa. Now, this is an A1 visa that deals with immigration paperwork. And it's a special kind of visa for heads of states and royal people. So Prince Harry could have got through on that, but we're waiting to hear. It's D-Day tomorrow.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, good afternoon, Britain. It's 26 minutes past 12. And yes, NHS trusts are now fast-tracking ethnic minority groups to top jobs, so not white people, essentially, so they can meet their diversity quotas.
I mean, it beggars belief, doesn't it? At least 11 major hospital trusts around England have schemes focused on helping ethnic minority employees gain senior roles. But the question is, shouldn't they be focusing on picking the best person for the role, despite their skin colour?
Well, we're joined by political commentator Benedict Spence. I mean, Benedict, this sort of thing has been going on for, well, decades now. It's a little bit passé. It seems a bit stuck in the past. I mean, the NHS is one of the most diverse institutions in our country, one of the most diverse employers. It just seems ridiculous at this stage.
Well, I think you're right. It's rather telling that, the modern-day UK is so unbelievably behind the times that it can't even keep up to date with whatever it is that's trendy across the pond. And that's the key thing to remember here, that all of this sort of, equality and diversity nonsense comes downstream from the United States, where, to be fair, in the United States, there is a much more prevalent history of racism that resulted in segregation, slavery, and all sorts of things. Things that we didn't happily have in this country, but because we lack imagination, and we are effectively just an extended province of the US, at some point down the line, we end up having to have this sort of thing anyway. And, that's ultimately what this all boils down to, is a sort of a trendiness. And it includes, I think, one hospital trust, or a couple of hospital trusts rather, had to have their own version of something called the Rooney Rule, which is a rule that is brought in, I think, from an American sports system, which sort of it implies that there have to be ethnic minorities on shortlists for it to be interviewed for the job. So we're quite literally taking policies from the United States and trying to apply them here.
But Benedict, it's worse than that, though, Benedict, because we're including quotas. Now, the Civil Rights Act, 1964 in the United States, explicitly banned quotas. It introduced all sorts of other different things and was built upon year after year after year in terms of trying to avoid what they call disparate impact and all the rest of it, all sorts of complicated ways to try and beef up minority representation. But in America, quotas, explicit quotas, are illegal. And yet it seems that the NHS has gone beyond what even the United States is doing in terms of equality and inclusion programmes and is actually delivering quotas.
Yeah, and I think that probably the most insane aspect of all of this is that it will have been done by, busybodies and do-gooders who say, well, you need this in order for people to have a more active stake in society, for them to feel like the society better represents them. But when it comes to things like healthcare, I think if you were to ask the average ethnic minority, they'd say, I'd quite like to just get better and maybe stay alive, and I don't really care, one way or the other, what colour my doctor, my nurse, my consultant is, where they came from. I'd just like them to hit those qualifications.
Benedict, they have to look like me for me to feel safe. They have to look like me. But this is getting ridiculous, though. I mean, so the Welsh Government are now giving 5,000 more in grants to trainee teachers if you happen to be an ethnic minority. So now you're actually getting paid less if you happen to be white, and that's part of their anti-racism action plan, whatever nonsense that is. You've got West Yorkshire Police openly delaying applications from white candidates because they want to have more ethnic minority hires, of course. You've got the Chief Constable at that police force saying, well, repeatedly arguing in favour of positive discrimination, which, again, is a very American term. And all of these police forces as well, indulging in that Rooney rule, or, no, I'm not sure if that's the Rooney rule, but the rule whereby you have two candidates and you say they're equally qualified, well, then you're allowed by the Equality Act to choose the one that is an ethnic minority simply on that basis. I mean, why not go to penalties? Why not just have another test and work out who is the better candidate? I mean...
Why not go to penalties, presumably because the Brits would lose the penalties, regardless of what happened. That seems like a really unfair way of doing it. That would be too far. I was just reading up here, though. I mean, they even use the terminology in one NHS trust. They use the terminology that is just so far out. Things like global majority. You have to have candidates who are from the global majority. And that, of course, is all framed to give the impression that actually there is almost a democratic element to this. Oh, it's not minorities that we're giving a lift up to. These are, in fact, the majority of people around the world, and they are being suppressed by not being overrepresented. When we're into that territory where the language is being warped so much, where they've gone, oh, minority, that doesn't actually sound so good, let's turn it on its head. Then
but also, what a stunningly offensive thing to say that someone from South America must think the same way as someone from China, must think the same way as someone from Namibia, must think the same... I mean, the global majority... I mean, what on earth kind of... is that just trying... It's a way of saying anyone who isn't white European. I mean, what a
but I thought if you're a minority, you're therefore underprivileged, so aren't they confusing matters?
But that's the other thing about this, right? We're using these American classifications. I was fairly sure that we treated people from sort of Eastern European as minorities until very recently.
No,
but now
anymore.
Apparently they're white, so they're not oppressed, and so I mean, I find it very hard to sort of
Jewish people don't count as a minority most of the time.
I mean, do people from Lebanon count as a minority? I mean, it's very marginal.
Right, well, on that note, Benedict, we are going to have to wrap it up. Benedict Spence, a political commentator, we could talk about this all day. An NHS spokesman has said that NHS services should only ever recruit the best candidate for the job, irrespective of race. But they are allowed. They are allowed to, according to the Equality Act. It is right trusts ensure their recruitment practices are fair and equitable, so excellent potential NHS staff don't miss out on roles due to discrimination. Okay.
That's the spokesperson for NHS England there. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more coming on today's programme, including, we want your thoughts on this. We're going to be speaking to Sir Michael Fabricant after he was ejected from the celebrity Big Brother house. Did you watch the show? What would you like to ask Sir Michael? Do let us know. gbnews.com/your say is the way to get involved.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom at 12:32. Well, we can update you now on the situation with the steel industry. 2 emergency shipments of raw materials have now arrived in the UK to stop British Steel's blast furnaces from going cold. You can see there iron ore and coking coal being unloaded from that ship from the United States in Birmingham and now being rushed to Scunthorpe, where the plant is hoped to be kept running for weeks. It comes after the government seized control of supplies when talks with Chinese owners collapsed. Ministers say the company had planned to shut the furnaces and sell off vital stock. Steel workers have called the delivery a huge relief and a turning point for the site's future. US Vice President J.D. Vance says there's a good chance of a trade deal with the United Kingdom amid global economic jitters, triggered, of course, by those sweeping US tariffs. Stock markets have been reeling since Donald Trump announced 10% tariffs on nearly all imports, including from close allies like UK and France. But signs of recovery emerged this week as the White House insists the tariffs are a long-term play to cut trade deficits. UK government sources say the talks with the United States are progressing well, with a potential deal expected to go beyond just tariffs. Vance told US media the UK is a stronger prospect than Germany, thanks to what he described as a more reciprocal relationship. A man's been arrested on suspicion of murder after a fatal house explosion in Nottinghamshire. Emergency crews were called to John Street in Worksop on Saturday evening, where 53-year-old David Howard was sadly found dead under debris. A 43-year-old man was questioned and has now been bailed while inquiries continue. The cause of the blast remains unknown and police say they're keeping an open mind, while David's family is being supported and detectives urge anyone with information to come forward. And the Birmingham bin strike is continuing after workers overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer. The Unite Union says the deal fails to address potential pay cuts of up to £8,000 and could impact hundreds of workers. Military planners have now been called in, with 11,000 tonnes of rubbish already cleared from the streets. But public health fears are growing, with dead animals found in parks and some local residents reporting rat infestations. The council, though, says its offer to workers was fair and that the doors remain open. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for a full roundup with your lunchtime news at 1 o'clock. Now, though, let's take a look at the headlines.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a look at the markets this lunchtime. The pound will buy you $1.3232 and €1.1672. The price of gold, £2,439 and 6 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,213 points.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report. Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon.
The latest AI travel news from GBNews.com reports a broken down vehicle on the A720 westbound between Gilmerton and Sheriff Hall. Take care when approaching. Due to resurfacing work, the M4 westbound from Junction 35 Pencoe to Junction 37 Pyle is closed with diversions in place. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 minutes to 1. Now the Princess of Wales has joined the Chief Scout, Dwayne Fields, in a video posted by Kensington Palace on how her spiritual connection with nature gives her peace in a busy world.
How lovely. Well, it was filmed near the shores of Lake Windermere with a Scouts group last month. The video was released overnight.
I find it a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments. Not everyone has that same relationship, perhaps, with nature, but it is so, therefore, meaningful for me as a place to balance and find a sort of sense of peace and reconnection in what is otherwise a very busy world.
Well, Chief Scout Dwayne Fields, who you just saw there with the Princess, spoke to GB News a little bit earlier about Catherine's support.
Her platform is meeting, and they are learning, building friendships, learning those really important skills for life.
I was a scout.
I bet you were a very proficient scout, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
I was a brownie. I'm not sure if I went to the guides. Maybe I did.
No, I went to the 100th anniversary. I was a scout during the 100th anniversary. And there was a big jamboree somewhere in the middle of England.
Jamboree?
Jamboree. Everyone from all over the world, the scouting world, came, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Did you make sure your socks were pulled up high?
Oh, absolutely.
Your little belt was on, all your little badges?
And that all of the cubs, we sort of went and sent them. Can you go and fetch
the baby cubs.
Can you go and fetch a long wait? That was a fun one.
Well, that's not very nice, is it? That's called bullying. But I got in a bit of hot water a few months ago for suggesting that the Scouts should only be for boys because they've made it open to everyone. They haven't made the brownies or the guides open to boys, have they?
I don't know.
I just feel like girls are allowed their girl things, but then boys' things we like to infiltrate.
Yeah.
You know, the men's clubs and things, not allowed.
Yeah, men's clubs are not allowed, but everyone talks about female spaces an awful lot.
Well, exactly. Women want their spaces, but you know, we infiltrate men's spaces.
But there is some.
But we don't pretend to be men.
But here's the thing. There is some suggestion, though.
There's a difference there, Tom. Before you get onto that.
At sort of GCSE, when doing exams, boys do better in mixed schools and girls do better in single-sex schools.
Yes, they need girls to show them how to do it. Show them how to. Concentrate. There we go. Finally got the word.
Some boys might be distracted.
Cameron's been sitting here having to
Someone who won't be distracted is our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, we were talking about the Scouts.
Yes, I was a Scout as well, if anyone wants to know, and I also did the 100th anniversary in 2007. Anyway,
you
Tom,
were there
that's
too.
not the story. I was.
We didn't cross paths.
We did not.
We never met.
We never met.
Or perhaps we did.
Well, maybe the Princess of Wales was also there. Who knew? Before she, of course, was when she was still Kate Middleton. Anyway, yes, she was in the Lake District last month secretly, spending time with a load of Scout groups. She is joint president of the Scouts, and if you remember back to when she was having cancer treatment, she said she found sanctuary in nature. And I think since that time, we have seen a running theme here of lots of cinematic videos coming out of Kensington Palace involving the Princess of Wales, talking about the importance of getting out into nature. Now, she obviously moved from London with her family to Windsor in order to give her children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, outside space. Now, clearly she's in a very privileged position in order to do that. And what she's trying to champion is a cause which, such as Scouting, which does allow, let's say, inner city children who don't have much access to outside space, the chance to go out and explore. And as Dwayne said in my little introduction video there, the Princess is a bit of a megaphone, really, for championing the Scouts and giving it a platform, because they are, and I didn't know this until this morning, they're actually really struggling for volunteers, the Scouts, because a lot of the older generation Scouting volunteers basically didn't come back after COVID, so they're really struggling to get adult volunteers out.
You look at all these reports that we've seen and we've reported on of how the countryside is racist and things like this. Well, this is lovely, then, initiative, getting inner city kids of all colours, all creeds or whatever, out into the open air to see that it's not.
And not being glued to your phone as well. I think that's the other point she made.
Oh, that's very important, yes.
Yeah, no, I think we were probably lucky that we didn't have mobile phones at the time that we were in the Scouts.
No, I think social media was pioneering at that time.
iPhone had not yet been invented.
No.
But this is actually a really important thing for so many children, because it used to be the case that people would automatically know about the outdoors, spend so much time outside playing, going out and about. Whereas now, I suppose, we're probably at a time where children spend more time indoors than ever, stuck to screens, whether it's screens in their pockets or screens on the walls.
Yeah.
I mean, this is such an important thing for children.
Well, exactly, and you can see images on your screens now of some of the 10 to 15-year-old children with the Princess of Wales from Cumbria and Greater Manchester in the Scouts, and something which I don't think many 10 to 15-year-olds do, studying a paper map on the forest floor alongside the Princess, and she's pointing out all the different things that they're doing in terms of going on a hike and navigating using a map. It's those kind of life skills. The Princess talks about helping young people build confidence, etc. So that's the message she was trying to get across.
I suppose it's a nice thing to draw attention to, eh?
Absolutely.
Cameron Walker, thank you very much indeed, our royal correspondent.
I won't give you your left-handed handshake or hold up the three fingers and all the other Scouty things.
Scouts too.
By the way, I will just say that a lot of you have been getting in touch about the bin issue up in Birmingham. Some people saying that actually, how would you like to have your pay cut by £8,000? And, you know, we're in a privileged position not to have that happen to us. And how we should have more empathy towards the workers, and how all the people in the council are earning so much more, and these people, it's not their fault that the council's bankrupt and all of this.
Do these people think that everyone who is saying, my goodness me, this is a terrible situation and that there has to be savings, do they think that people are delighting in this?
It's a way of saying it, though, Tom, isn't it?
I mean, come on, have some logical ability to...
It's a way of saying it, though, you know. Show some empathy towards the people who are losing their jobs.
Situation. It's an absolute insanity that there had to be over £1 billion in equal pay payouts to different jobs. I mean, that is the insanity that has led us to this position.
So Clive says, sorry, Tom, you're showing complete ignorance. The 8k pay cut will take the bin men down to almost minimum wage. Is it OK for you, as a relatively high-paid TV presenter, to make such a judgment? I'd love to see you do work for the minimum wage. What judgment am I supposed to
be making here?
Well, that somehow they should find the money. That's the argument against you.
The judgment that I am making here is that Birmingham Council is bankrupt.
Yeah, it's just a fact,
It's the judgment that Birmingham Council has made. It's the judgment the government has acknowledged. No one here should be denying that Birmingham Council doesn't have any money. I mean, the question is, can you continue to pay for bin men at a higher rate than other councils if your council is literally bankrupt? You just can't.
Yeah, I think people just see the money going elsewhere and they get infuriated that it is the workers, the bin men, which is a job that most people do not want to do, are the ones who are carrying the weight in part, although it is true that all the taxpayers in Birmingham are going to have to be paying a lot more.
Of course, most councils have 3 bin men to a bin lorry rather than 4 bin men to a bin lorry.
Sorry, I just used the inbox against you, Tom.
That's quite all right. That's what this channel is for. It's about debate, discussion and all things like that. But if you want to get away from such heated debate or even such smelly bins, here's the forecast for Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're hoping to get away for the rest of the Easter holidays, I'm afraid it's rather unsettled across the central Mediterranean. Heavy showers, thunderstorms and also some strong winds. Largely dry across Madeira and the rest of the Canary Islands, though, particularly after all the heavy rain recently. But as we shift our way eastwards, heavy showers affecting much of the central Mediterranean. These could have hail and also some thunder and some strong winds associated with them too. Largely dry across Greece, and it's turning largely dry for all as we head into Saturday, with temperatures widely in the mid to high teens to low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It remains unsettled. We'll see some heavy rain pushing north over the next 24 hours. The risk of some thunderstorms. Temperatures still rising in the sunshine though, particularly across the southeast. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, pushing northwards across the UK. Weather fronts showing where the heaviest rain will be, particularly across Wales, southwest England through the afternoon. A Met Office warning in force. We could see up to 75 millimetres of rain over the next 24 hours. Some localised flooding possible. Also rain clearing northeastern parts of England and eastern Scotland over the next few hours, and then showers following on behind. Temperatures reaching 18 to 19 Celsius across the southeast in any brighter spells, but cool under the cloud across some western areas. As we move through into the evening time, we can see cloudy skies across eastern parts of Scotland. The risk of some rain at times too. Best of any sunny spells across the west. 1 or 2 showers possible. Mixture of sunny spells and a few showers across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Fairly cloudy skies for Northern England and Wales. Down into the West Country we see outbreaks of heavy rain still. The wind's starting to pick up as well. We'll start to see some gales developing around the coast as we move through into this evening. As this low pressure system starts to develop and push its way northward, some heavy bursts of rain possible, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland as we head into the early hours. Some drier intervals across eastern England, northern Scotland seeing some clear skies as well. And generally with strong winds around, cloud and rain, temperatures holding up around 7 or 8 degrees. But it does mean an unsettled start to Wednesday. Further Met Office warnings come into force across Northern Ireland as the heavy rain transfers here. Some brisk winds through the Irish Sea too. Brightening up though through the day across central southern parts of the UK. Some heavy showers developing and a rain eventually moving across much of Scotland. In the sunshine, temperatures reaching around 15, 16 Celsius, but cool under the cloud and rain.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 1. Now, the Downing Street Twitter account has managed to tweet out all of these within the last 2 days.
So we've got a happy Nepali New Year. We've got, what's this? Bengali New Year. Yes, Shubno Naborosho. We've also got something here that is a Tamil New Year as well, to anyone celebrating. And this one is, I cannot read that, but it is a happy Vaisakhi to those who celebrate. So the number 10 Downing Street has been in overdrive. It's been tweeting all about these various different holidays. We know that they put out a huge amount when it came to Ramadan and Eid and everything else. But there's been a bit of anger brewing on the old social media because something's been forgotten. And that would be quite notable dates in the Christian calendar, like Palm Sunday and the beginning of Holy Week. Now, Tom, what do you make of this?
What did you do for Palm Sunday, Emily?
It's not about what I did. We're a Christian country, a huge proportion of people in this country. But that's not the point. It's not about you, is it? What did you do for the Jainism holiday?
Well, I'm going to do something for Easter. I'm going to see my family on Easter. I saw my family at Christmas. Those are the big celebrated parts of the Christian calendar. I mean, Palm Sunday is a huge thing in some Catholic parts of some Catholic countries, sure. But I mean, that's not...
Hang on.
The Prime Minister...
Hang on. But number 10 will make sure to celebrate a holiday of Jainism. Right. Now, Jainism is a very small religion based in India, came from India. Very, very small, probably only a couple of tens of thousands of people in this country.
Of the Jainism calendar.
So you actually think it's not a bit bizarre that number 10 have tweeted out so much? They didn't tweet out anything about Lent. They didn't tweet out anything about the previous, but they were very busy to talk about Ramadan,
yes, because
Eid,
that's the most
everything like this.
In the Muslim
calendar.
calendar.
So you seriously think there's no issue?
I think there's a really simple thing that's happened.
The fact that number 10 won't actually put out anything that relates to the huge proportion of Christians in this country who do think that Holy Week is right. Do you know how many people went to church on Sunday?
I have no idea.
Huge numbers. This is just because you're an atheist, so you don't care.
No, but
what about all of the Christians out there who are looking to number 10 and thinking that they're being forgotten?
This is clearly what's happened, right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying this is clearly what's happened. Someone has picked the major religious holidays of every faith around the world, and it's on some timer, it gets tweeted out every time there's a major religious holiday. I don't think you compare Ramadan to Palm Sunday.
I'm not. What about Bengali New Year, eh? We'll see you in a
See you next hour.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It stays unsettled, low pressure in charge of our weather. There'll be some heavy rain, some strong winds and often quite cloudy across many parts of the UK. And we can see that on the pressure pattern. Low pressure moving up from the south, bringing outbreaks of rain. As the low pressure deepens, the winds will also strengthen, particularly around the coast. The Met Office warning out for heavy rain across parts of Wales, the West Country over the next 24 hours. The rain slowly transferring northwards into Northern Ireland into the early hours. Some localised flooding possible here. Elsewhere, a mixture of cloudy skies and further outbreaks of rain as we head overnight. And temperatures generally holding up 6 to 8 degrees for many of us. Windy around the coast, some local gales possible through the Irish Sea as well. So it is an unsettled start to Wednesday. However, across northern parts of Scotland, there will be some bright to sunny spells here to start the day. A northerly breeze here, temperatures around 7 or 8 degrees. But a wet start across Northern Ireland, heavy rain, some localised flooding possible, so do take care if travelling. A cloudy, wet start across the rest of England and Wales too, but improving from the southwest. Some sunny spells starting to develop. A Met Office warning still in force for western parts through Wednesday morning, but the rain transferring slowly northwards through the day. Brighter skies across central southern parts of England and Wales, but the sunshine could trigger 1 or 2 heavy showers. Remaining windy, particularly around this area of low pressure. Gales possible at times, some localised flooding as the rain continues here. Temperatures rising 15 to 17 in the sunshine, but cold under the cloud and rain. Temperatures here around 8 or 9 degrees. Into the evening time, this area of low pressure just slowly pushes its way northwards for further rain possible across many northern parts of the UK, generally dry across central southern parts of England and Wales. And the outlook is for it to stay unsettled. Further showers, some longer spells of rain at times as low pressure stays in charge. Temperatures around average.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, I'm a bit irritated today. So there's two secret files that have been released, one on Prince Harry and his visa claim and getting citizenship in the USA. And what do we learn from it? Nothing. Nothing, because it's all redacted. And then the biggest one of all, history. So Donald Trump says, yes, we can see the JFK files, we have nothing to hide there, whatever. It's all redacted. There's nothing, we don't learn anything new from this. Now, you've studied, you've been like me, you've been fascinated like this since you were a kid.
Yeah, I have. I don't... I mean, let's be honest, is there likely to be files somewhere that's actually saying Grassy Knoll and Magic Bullet...
Giving you the truth.
And that it was the mafia and that it was to do with J. Edgar Hoover or anything else? I don't believe all that stuff anyway. I honestly don't.
Well, how do you explain that it wasn't JFK's brain that was in the post-mortem? It was a different brain. His brain was substituted.
You know what? That's the first I've heard of that.
Well, you see, I thought
it was a different brain. How did they know? How do they know it wasn't his brain?
Well, they may have known what his brain was like.
Well, the doctor in Dallas who was there to do the post-mortem because it was his area.
Yes.
Wasn't allowed to do the post-mortem.
That's right, because they wanted to fly him back to Washington, right?
The CIA or the FBI, whatever, took the body away.
Right.
And they had time to do whatever they wanted, and doctor anything the way they wanted. But, I mean, and there definitely were 2 shooters. There were 2 shooters involved in this.
I don't believe that.
Because of the magic bullet?
No, the puff of smoke from the grassy knoll.
Maybe I'm being extremely naive, that's how but for everything that I've seen, everything I've read, I think that Lee Harvey Oswald, how about this, actually did it.
What?
And did it alone.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 15th of April. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
Now, the US is apparently hopeful of a great trade deal with the United Kingdom. That's according to Vice President J.D. Vance. He says Donald Trump loves the UK, adding that a mutual beneficial agreement is on the horizon. Does the special relationship remain fully intact, though? We're going to be speaking to the very man behind this particularly insightful interview.
Elsewhere, stench warfare. Yes, that continues in Birmingham as Unite the Union digs its heels in over those ongoing bin strikes. Fears now that a nationwide action could spread. Could we be approaching a summer of smelly discontent?
Oh, I do hope not. And we're going to be speaking to Sir Michael Fabricant. He sadly became the first contestant to leave Celebrity Big Brother this year following a public vote. He did get into a couple of rows, one over whether he wears a wig and also about Islamophobia. It got a bit controversial, but we'll be asking whether he enjoyed it and other questions. Well. I mean, it's not surprising, is it, that a former Tory MP might not last that long?
No.
There's not a lot of love, is there, in the room for...
I don't know. I think what
although
happened...
he is charming. He's a good crack.
With the clips that I saw, I think actually what happened was it wasn't that everyone in the House didn't like him at all. Is that there were 1 or 2 people who sort of were out to get him. And all it takes in a group of that many people is one person sort of latches onto you or says, you said something when he didn't say that thing.
Yeah.
So in those two instances, it was Patsy Palmer going after him, and then it was Trisha Goddard going after him.
Yeah, didn't stand a chance.
And no one else seemed like that they were particularly sort of going after him in any way, shape or form. But it's sort of a vulnerability when you've been, I suppose, a politician, that some people that might have very strong political views might then be domineering characters within the whole group.
And you never know, someone like Patsy Palmer and Trisha Goddard might be playing the game here. Thinking, what's going to make good television? Well, a fight with a former Conservative MP is probably a good start. What's going to get those ratings up? No one watches Celebrity Big Brother to just see them all getting along nicely, do they?
Although this is the first year that Celebrity Big Brother's gone back to ITV, if I'm not... or not back, even just turned to ITV, because it was on Channel 4, then it was on Channel 5, and now it's sort of gone up the listings a little bit, up to ITV.
Well, I've been watching Married at First Sight Australia, so that gives you an insight into what I get up to when I'm not here.
What is Married at First Sight?
Well, they just match people up based on some criteria, and then they marry them at first sight. So they've never met each other before. They get married, and then sparks fly, or they don't.
I mean, how long do these marriages last?
Well, it depends, you know. Some could be for life. I haven't got to the end of the series yet, so I don't know. Anyway...
I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm sorry to anyone watching or listening who did meet their life partner through an instant speed date reality TV show, but I'm not sure it sounds like the firmest foundations for long love and lasting happiness.
Well, they say that they match them perfectly based on what they want and their personality traits, so there you go. Sorry, this isn't the hard-hitting news that you've come to expect from Good Afternoon Britain. We will be getting onto some very important topics, of course, including JD Vance's comments.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We'll get all to that and much more after your very latest headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the GB newsroom. The top story this lunchtime: 2 emergency shipments of raw materials have now arrived in the UK to stop British Steel's blast furnaces from going cold. Iron ore and coking coal from the US are being unloaded in Immingham and rushed to Scunthorpe plant, enough to keep it running for weeks. It comes after the government seized control of supplies when talks with Chinese owners collapsed. Ministers say the company had planned to shut the furnaces and sell off vital stock. Steelworkers have this afternoon called the delivery a huge relief and a turning point for the site's future. US Vice President JD Vance says there is a good chance of a trade deal with the UK amid global economic jitters, triggered, of course, by those sweeping tariffs introduced by the United States. Stock markets have been reeling since Donald Trump announced 10% tariffs on nearly all imports, including from close allies like the UK and France. But signs of recovery emerged this week as the White House insists the tariffs are a long-term play to cut trade deficits. UK government sources say that talks with the US are progressing well, with a potential deal expected to go beyond just tariffs. Vance told US media the UK is a stronger prospect than Germany, thanks to what he described as more reciprocal relationships. In other news, a man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a fatal house explosion in Nottinghamshire. Emergency crews were called to John Street in Worksop on Saturday evening, where 53-year-old David Howard was sadly found dead under debris. A 43-year-old man has been questioned and now released on bail while inquiries continue. The cause of the blast, though, remains unknown, and police say they are keeping an open mind. Also this lunchtime, a man has admitted murdering 2 women and trying to kill 2 others in a brutal Christmas Day stabbing in Milton Keynes. Joanne Pearson and Tiona Grant were killed at the scene after Jaswell Brown launched a knife attack at a house in Bletchley. He also stabbed a 29-year-old man and a teenage boy and injured a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Brown appeared at Luton Crown Court to plead guilty to all charges, including attempted murder and possessing a knife. He'll be sentenced next month, with his lawyer saying he is profoundly sorry for the attack. The Birmingham bin strike is set to continue after workers overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer. Unite says the deal fails to address potential pay cuts of up to £8,000 a year and could impact hundreds of workers. Military planners have now been called in, with 11,000 tonnes of rubbish already cleared from the streets. But public health fears are growing, with dead animals found in parks and some residents reporting rat infestations. Russia's top spy chief says Moscow and Minsk are ready to act proactively in response to NATO activity near Ukraine. Sergei Narishkin claims European escalation is fueling the need for a coordinated security measure with Belarus. He's warned that if NATO attacks, the alliance will face damage, but says Poland and the Baltic states would suffer first of all. Multiple prisons in France have come under attack overnight in what officials there fear may have been a coordinated assault. Gunfire was reported at Toulon prison, while arson and vandalism hit sites in Marseille and 8 other cities. Cars were torched, walls were sprayed with paint and the letters DDPF were plastered, possibly linked to prisoner rights groups. Sources suggest far-left extremists may be targeting new high-security prison plans. And as I always say, it wouldn't be a news bulletin without a bit of weather, so I'm sorry to tell you the sunshine has gone and the downpours are here. The flood warnings are in place across much of the UK. Yellow alerts are in place for rain and storms in the southwest, northwest and Wales as cooler and gloomier weather settles in. Milford Haven was soaked with 26 millimetres overnight, while temperatures in Newcastle dipped below freezing. The Environment Agency says surface water flooding is likely and warns that just 30 centimetres of water can float your car. Well, with more wet weather on the way, forecasters say this unsettled spell is far from over. That's the news this lunchtime. You're all up to date. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Emily.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes past 1. Now, the hardline union bosses are threatening to spread their bin strike beyond Birmingham and out to the rest of the country.
Oh, brilliant. This comes as yesterday those striking overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer, which the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner had implored them to support, despite usually siding with the unions. Earlier, GB News spoke to Unite National Lead Officer Onay Kassab, who said the government's proposed offer was really going to mean a pay cut for bin workers.
The offer, and if we can call it an offer, is really inadequate. It deals with one very small area, it deals with a minority of people, and ultimately it means a pay cut. So when the council talk about nobody needs to lose pay, it is plain wrong. The proposal that they have put forward leads to a pay cut. It really is that straightforward and that simple.
Well, let's speak to the man who conducted that interview a little bit earlier on this programme. Joining us is our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson. Jack, clearly both sides of this dispute are at a total impasse.
Well, that's what it seems to be, Tom and Emily. You heard there from Onay Kassab that these negotiations as well would continue tomorrow, but we seem to be at a point in the negotiations where obviously, last week, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner came to Birmingham and met with people helping up with the clear-up around the city, those volunteers out there collecting rubbish. She urged Unite then to look at the offer. She said it was a much improved offer from Birmingham City Council, urged Unite the union to not only just consider it, but also vote for it and end these strikes. Throughout this, the government have said that they want to put the residents of Birmingham first, that this public health crisis that we're seeing with bins piling up around the city is unacceptable and worrying. But when that ballot came yesterday and 97% of the members who voted on that ballot, 6% of up to 400 people actually was the turnout, 97% of those who did vote rejected it. That shows that there is still seriously a long way to go here before there can be a deal reached. Now, one of the things you heard from Onay Kassab in the interview a little earlier on was around the position of drivers as well. There's a job evaluation scheme going on now for the position of driver. That is a grade 4 position, if you like, and there are worries now that that will be downgraded to a grade 3 position, which, as we were told earlier, could mean a pay cut of around £8,000 for those 200 drivers. So if a deal is to happen on the waste and recycling collection officer role, it seems like Unite also want guarantees and assurances around the driver position as well, so we don't get into a situation where this dispute ends around the waste and recycling collection officer role, which is where this dispute started in the first place, but then the bin men immediately vote to go out on strike once again again because there is a dispute with the pay of the drivers. But there are also concerns, reports today around disputes about this happening across the country as well. We know that Peterborough Council are in negotiations with the GMB union there around a pay dispute with their workers. There has been no strike action ruled out there. Sheffield, another city touted as a place where bin disputes could happen. So there is a real worry here. We spoke to Onai Kassab on that point. Here's what he said.
That very much depends on employers. You know, we're not going to go looking for industrial disputes. However, if local authorities or contractors who provide refuse services for local authorities insist that they are going to cut the pay and conditions of our members, then we make absolutely no apology for the fact that we will defend those members' pay and conditions.
So yeah, it could happen, as you heard there from Onai Kassab. It could be a case that these disputes happen across the country for money. If they choose to cut the pay of workers, it would not be a surprise if these bin disputes escalate nationwide.
Jack Carson, thank you very much for bringing us the latest from Birmingham. A friend of mine just texted saying, no bins outside Birmingham City Council. No, of course not. There would never be any bins outside.
I've said it before and I've said it again. It is a beautiful city council. It's one of the nicest.
Oh, yes, the architecture, yes.
Architecturally.
Can't ruin it with some bins.
No.
We've got special bin men for that.
Let's move on, though, because it's a political exit, but not thanks to an election. No, Sir Michael Fabricant has been booted from the Celebrity Big Brother house in the show's first vote. Not at the ballot boxes, of course, but via the telephones.
The former Conservative MP was evicted after failing to win viewer support, but in a video posted to X, he said the experience was completely different to what he had expected. And he seems pretty happy to be back in reality and in the pub. Let's watch.
Well, from the sublime to the ridiculous, I'm out of the Big Brother house and just loving it here, back in Lichfield. And I'm in the King's Head, where the Staffordshire Regiment was formed, and I'm back in reality. Love Lich Vegas.
Back to Lich Vegas. Well, delighted to say that joining us from Lich Vegas, or Lichfield to you and me, is Sir Michael Fabricant. Michael, what a bizarre experience it must have been for you.
Yeah, and completely different from what I expected, because I really thought I would hate it and I would have to endure every single day. But in fact, there were such lovely people. I didn't get on with one or two, but the majority, 11 of them, I thought were, 10 of them were, hang on, there were 13 of us, including me, so that's 12. Yeah, so 10 of them I got on with really, really well.
Yeah, because, Sir Michael, we did see what happened with...
Just call me Michael, please.
Sorry.
Just call me Michael.
I'll call you Mike.
Can
I call you Mike? No, I'll call you Michael. That's better.
Yeah.
Michael.
Not Mickey, because that'll confuse with the other, with Mickey Rourke.
Oh, we don't want that. Yes, we don't want that. Michael, we did see there was a little bit of an altercation with a certain radio TV broadcaster, Trisha Goddard. I hope you don't mind if we just play the clip now. Or in a couple of seconds' time.
Jewish people, when they usually come to this country, believe, do in Rome as the Romans do. Do not come to this country if your aim is to change everybody to your way of thinking. There are other people...
Hang on.
There are... What?
Hang on. Are you slipping into Islamophobia? Because you're going to have a trouble.
Who has mentioned Islam?
I'm getting out of this one.
Okay.
It's getting dangerous.
Right, so Trisha Goddard there being the arbitrator of what you can and can't talk about. Also, you hadn't mentioned Islam.
No, I never generalise. I'm not so dumb and stupid to generalise about a whole country, although I did tweet, I do think French people are rude, but apart from that, I never generalise about
just
a nationality or a religion. And I was explaining, actually, that I'm from a Jewish background. The name Fabricant is a French name. I did a DNA test. I'm sort of North German, Southern Scandinavian, so I'm of immigrant stock, if you like. I think most Brits are. But, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And that's all I was saying. But, you know, I thought it was very bad, actually, that she did that. And I was really heartened that a number of Big Brother housemates, you know, came up to me afterwards and said, what was all that about? You know, because... Although I will blame it on Chesney, because I was never going to talk about immigration at all. I was boring them all about HS2, and I don't think most of them knew what the hell it was. And then Chesney said to me, Chesney Hawkes, you know, the... I won't sing his song. But anyway, Chesney was saying, go on, do immigration, so I did. And it was quite interesting. The Big Brother house, I could see there were quite a few people who might be Conservative or Reform voters, but there were a few who were not. Funnily enough, one of the lovely guys there is Danny, who, when he's not being Danny, is being a drag queen. And even though he's quite left-wing, he was saying to me, you know, that was out of order, the whole Trisha thing.
Oh, really? That is interesting. So almost everyone in the house was sort of saying, look, Michael, we just want to hear your point of view. And Trisha Goddard there was sort of snapping, calling you Islamophobic when you hadn't even mentioned Islam. Have you spoken to her? Did you speak to her after that peculiar interruption?
No, I didn't. I thought it's just not worth it. You know, I did speak to her afterwards, but not about that. I just thought it wasn't worth it. I just think she's the one, actually, who's prejudiced. And apparently, someone's told me since I've been out of the Big Brother house that when I did a whole preamble, because this was an exercise we were doing, I was told to give a speech. And someone told me that actually when I said I was of Jewish background, to try and explain that I'm also an immigrant stock, if you like. You know, apparently she went, oi, why is he, you know, Jewish? So I don't know what the whole agenda there was about.
Oh, dear. Well, it sounds like she was just trying to make a point, but I'm not sure to whom and why.
And what point it was.
I must
very
say,
odd.
We did also see a bit of an odd interrogation from Patsy Palmer, it was, over your hair. And it did look like you were quite uncomfortable, were you?
Yes, I don't like discussing my hair or anything else come to that, or my boobs, which are getting bigger as you get older. Fine hair,
we have seen you naked on the back of a bike, haven't we?
Yes, that was terrible. That was for charity, and that was filmed. I think it was actually broadcast in August, but it was filmed in March. So I was very, very white. I was very, very goose pimpled, and I'd stored up my fat over winter, so I was looking my absolute worst.
Michael, I have to say, I have to ask you this question. Have you seen that the interaction between you and Patsy Palmer has become a viral sound on TikTok, where people lip sync to what each of you say? And it's become quite a big meme.
Oh, no, because actually all MPs are banned from having on their phones TikTok in case China is breaking their way into our phones. So I don't actually have TikTok. I suppose I could load it now because I'm no longer an MP. I'm free, as The Who used to sing. But no, I haven't. It's the short answer to your question.
And just lastly, do you feel... how do you feel now? Are you a bit sad? I mean, it's not nice to be out first, is it? Do you feel like you were hard done by in any way?
No, I don't feel hard done by, but I do feel sad because, I mean, look, I knew as soon as I was nominated and I knew Mickey Rourke and the Corrie star Jack was there, I knew that, you know, all the fans of Mickey Rourke and Coronation Street, you know, would vote for them and not for me. So that I knew was going to happen. I would have liked to have done another week, although people say, you know what, Mike, you know, you were very, very lovable on that. And it's getting more and more bitchy now in this next week. They're trying to cause conflict, so that's difficult. But yes, I was very sad because I really bonded with them. It was such a lovely experience. I really like them.
I don't suppose
and I hope to see, by the way, Danny again. Even though every time he hugs me and kisses me, he says, I can't believe I'm doing it to a Conservative or Tory.
Why do people do that? I don't suppose
Danny
you can tell us whether you get paid the same whichever week you're booted out.
Yeah, you get paid the same. But the interesting thing, by the way, is Mickey Rourke broke all the rules and was ejected. So I doubt whether he will get his...
Oh, yeah, I don't think he will. I don't think he will, actually, yeah. I think I read that somewhere, that he might get it cut because
certainly in the contract,
I'm not sure if we should pry into what's in your contract. Are we breaking some rules here? I don't know. But, Michael, before we let you go, is this just the first of more reality television, perhaps? Has the jungle come calling? Have you dusted off your, I don't know, ice skates? I mean, what might be next?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You may know this, Tom, but I cannot stand eating offal. I don't touch kidneys, liver. So the idea of eating a kangaroo anus really does turn me off. But I don't know. I don't think I'll be offered anymore, because I think once you've done something big like Big Brother, they don't offer you anything more. But look, I'm available for christenings, bar mitzvahs, all other events.
Good to know, Sir Michael Fabricant there. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Oh, there you go. I'm not sure if I'd fancy going into the Big Brother house. I'm sure I'd stick my foot in it somehow.
Oh, yeah, who knows? But I would quite like to see Michael Fabricant on I'm a Celebrity.
You could tell everyone in the Big Brother house, you know, about, I don't know, a bit of political history, a bit of trivia, a bit of trains.
Do you think they'd love my facts about the London Underground?
They could tell you the facts. You could show them your maps.
You know, there's one Prime Minister. This is combining transport and politics. There's one Prime Minister who had a funeral procession on the London Underground.
Who was that then?
It was Gladstone.
Wow.
Gladstone loved the Underground, and part of his funeral was a funeral train that went along on one of the London Underground lines.
Well, if I'm still alive when you pop your clogs, I'll do everything in my power to make that happen for you. But it is time for the Great British Giveaway now. It's our biggest prize to date, and it's your chance to enjoy as many getaways as you like in your very own 4-berth motorhome worth over £67,000 and 5k cash. Here are the details.
You could be spending your summer in style on the road in this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. It sleeps 4, comes with integrated kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comfortably has space for all the family. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. It's our biggest prize package ever, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past 1. Now, the notorious Islamist hate preacher Anjem Choudhury, he's suspected of inspiring the attack on 3 prison officers by Manchester Arena terrorist Hasham Abedi.
Yes, it comes as Hasham Abedi attacked 3 prison officers brutally at HMP Franklin over the weekend in what was a shocking incident.
Well, we're joined now by the Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society, Dr. Alan Mendoza. Alan, I mean, what on earth is going on inside our prisons?
Well, that's a really good question. What on earth is going on inside our prisons when somebody who has been convicted of a heinous crime like this is able to access cooking materials and then attack prison officers? You've got to wonder what privileges are being given to people like that and why they should be even allowed near things that could be used as weapons against the people looking after them.
I mean, Alan, Anjem Choudhury, what do you make of the fact that they clearly put all the Islamists in one area together? Because there is an argument that you corner them off so they don't infect the other inmates. But it also could be a bit of well, it's a bit of a danger, isn't it? Because they can plot together, as is being insinuated by this report.
So the question, unfortunately, you're asking, Emily, is 2 sides of the same coin, because already we have an epidemic of Islamist radicalization in prisons, and that's happening because you are seeing gangs, sort of emerge and force other prisoners to join Islam in this sort of way within the prison context, and that's happening without these prisoners being accessible, the really hardcore Islamists being accessible to ordinary prisoners. So, in a sense, they do need to be separated. They're very dangerous people. Yes, you're right. There is a question about whether they should be allowed to plot with one another. And that surely tells you that the conditions are far too lenient for these very dangerous security risks within even the separation area. But certainly we don't want to see them thrown back into the general population. That would be a recipe for even more chaos, given the problems we're seeing with the general prison population right now.
I mean, is it just a simple issue of capacity, that we don't have the capacity to put every single Islamist in isolation? Because it seems that we've got just so blooming many of them.
Well, it is A, capacity, that's a problem. B, it is also the fact that there's a growing population in terms of radical Islamists in prisons, and that is in itself a cause for concern. It is hardly plausible that in some prisons, I saw a figure Robert Jordan was quoting, that in one prison 45% of the inmates are now have converted or are now Muslim or had converted to Islam. Now that is a bizarre statistic when you consider the Muslim population of this country is 6.5%. So something's going very badly wrong within prisons anyway, because not to say that prisoners can't obviously find some kind of faith there, but radical Islam is not the faith you want prisoners to be finding. And there's obviously a problem within the context of sort of various prison stewardship schemes allowing this to happen. So yes, it's a capacity problem. B, it's also that authorities have been too lenient to allow this kind of conversion to take place. And that is in itself why I think we're having these problems.
Now, Anna, most people will recognise Anjem Choudhury for obvious reasons, but apparently in the prison, this is according to The Sun, they've spoken to various sources, they believe that Choudhury was described as the daddy of the separation unit, that he encouraged Abedi to carry out this attack. They're now investigating those claims. And while this attack was going on, he was in the gym, apparently, with two other convicts. Just remind us who Anjem Choudhury is and why he's locked up in this security unit.
Well, Anjem Choudhury has, of course, been in prison twice. This is his second go-round because, of course, originally he was in charge of various radical Islamist groups who were prescribed. He then trod a very careful line for many years, trying to avoid being sent to prison, but eventually got caught out in basically inviting support for ISIS. He went to prison, he came out of prison, and then managed to breach his term by again inviting support for terrorism in this sort of way. He's now gone back in for 28 years. He's not going to come out, basically. It's the reality of the situation. Why is he the granddaddy? It is reckoned that over the course of his 30-year radical Islam proselytizing campaign, he's been responsible for, dozens of terrorists who've come under his influence and have then committed crimes because of the teachings he has espoused. So he's a very serious Islamist and somebody who clearly has very charismatic powers and has convinced many people to go down this path over time. And that should really mark him out as a very dangerous man. Yeah. So the idea that he is frequenting, with other prisoners is a big problem.
Just don't understand why he wasn't in isolation.
Right, if the entire history of this man is convincing low IQ people to go and blow themselves up, I mean, what on earth is he doing mixing with two other people in a gym inside a prison? I mean, this sounds more like a resort than a prison to me. If he's wandering around with friends of his, going to the gym, I mean, that's what people pay to do outside of prison.
Plotting terror attacks.
I've got news for you. It's not just a gym. They had cooking facilities, which is, of course, where Abedi causes problems. They play video games as well, Tom. So, I'm sorry to say that this is rather a cushy number. And I think what this shows is that prison authorities at the very top level, when it comes to serious offenders like this, people who will never be de-radicalised, they are being given far too easy a ride in prison. I'm all for rehabilitation of low-level offenders to try and stop them from re-offend again. These people do not need rehabilitation. These people need punishment.
Yeah, and separation. Dr. Alan Mendoza, thank you very much indeed. You're the Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society. Why was he not in isolation? That would be cruel on his human rights.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is one of the reasons why we can't deport people to foreign prisons. Because European rights guarantee visitation rights.
And because the prisons aren't nice everywhere else.
It's hard to facilitate the right of family of the prisoners to then go visit them if they're in a foreign country.
You see, a lesbian couple can't be deported to Albania because apparently it's more homophobic than Britain. A lot of countries are more homophobic than Britain.
Just about every country in the world is. I mean, is that the bar? Gee. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's programme, including we're going to speak to the journalist behind that fascinating J.D. Vance interview. It's not one to miss.
Very good afternoon to you. 34 minutes past 1. The top story this lunchtime: the government has stepped in to save British Steel's Scunthorpe plant after talks with its Chinese owner collapsed. Emergency shipments of raw materials from the US have now arrived in Birmingham, with enough to keep the blast furnaces running for weeks. Ministers are now in control of supply lines to stop irreparable damage to the site. The Steelworks Union says it's huge relief after what they described as disgraceful actions by the Chinese owners that put thousands of jobs at risk. Another shipment is also on the way from Australia as efforts continue to secure the plant's future. The super yacht Hygiene is expected to be raised from the seabed and brought ashore by the end of May, 9 months after it sank off Sicily, killing 7 people. Among the dead were British tech tycoon Dr. Mike Lynch and his 18-year-old daughter Hannah. They were on board to celebrate his acquittal in a US fraud case. A pre-inquest hearing was told the retrieval operation will begin on the 26th of this month, with investigators hoping to inspect the vessel for evidence. The Marine Accident Investigation Branch says a full report could take months. Inquest proceedings here in the UK are looking into the deaths of 4 British nationals as Italian police carry out a separate criminal investigation. A man has admitted murdering 2 women and trying to kill 2 others in a brutal Christmas Day stabbing in Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire. Joanne Pearson and Tiona Grant were killed at the scene after Jaswell Brown launched the knife attack at a house in Bletchley. He also stabbed a 29-year-old man and a teenage boy and injured a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Brown appeared at Luton Crown Court and pleaded guilty to all charges, including attempted murder and possessing a knife. He'll be sentenced next month, with his lawyer saying he is profoundly sorry for the attack. In Russia, the top spy chief there says Moscow and Minsk are ready to act proactively in response to NATO activity near Ukraine. Sergei Narishkin claims that European escalation is fueling the need for coordinated security measures with Belarus. He's warned that if NATO attacks, the alliance will face damage, but says Poland and the Baltic states would suffer first of all. And the sunshine's gone and the downpours, well, they are here with flood warnings in force across parts of the UK. Yellow alerts are in place for rain and storms in the southwest, northwest and Wales as cooler and gloomier weather has settled in. Milford Haven was soaked with 26 millimetres overnight, while temperatures in Newcastle dipped below freezing. The Environment Agency says surface water flooding is likely and warns that just 30 centimetres of water can float your car. And with more wet weather on the way, forecasters say this unsettled spell is far from over. That's the news. You're all up to date just after 1:30. Tom and Emily will be back with you very shortly.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Currently, Wiltshire's A303 westbound between A350 and the junction with A371 is shut due to a road traffic collision. Motorists heading through Cambridgeshire on the A14 westbound between junction 18 Spaldwick East and junction 16, Catworth should anticipate 10-minute delays due to congestion. Over in Surrey, the M25 anti-clockwise exit slip at Clackett Lane Services has a broken-down vehicle, with one of 2 lanes closed. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
People sometimes think if someone is homeless, they're not trying for work, or I mean, you clearly have been.
Yes,
but
yes.
Just not getting enough to actually be able
That's
to
the thing.
fund what's so expensive.
When you're self-employed, anyone who's self-employed will understand me that it's got its moments of being busy and quieter.
And have you experienced that stigma of being homeless, not having anywhere to call home?
Yes, I definitely have. I felt it through losing friends. I've realised who my true people are, I would say. It's crazy how humanity still exists. More recently than not, I put a post out saying I didn't have anywhere to go one of the nights. And I was in the council the next day and I needed to be in Windsor because the council or nearby. And a couple of people reached out that I didn't even know, a couple, and I stayed at theirs. And they even gave me a warm meal. So humanity does exist. And but where's my friends in all this, you know?
Yeah.
A few friends have stepped up a little bit more now and realised this is, become a problem. When they've seen me and actually spoke to me properly and realised this is what I'm going through, they've helped me and let me stay on the sofa or, but it's all temporary.
Just briefly, what about charities in all of this? Are they able to help?
Crisis and Shelter, I've just gone around in circles with. I haven't got any direct help so much. Not been able to get through to anyone. I've wrote to them, I've emailed them, I've Instagrammed them. But the only charity that has helped me, and it's a kind of an unusual one, is Dogs Trust.
Oh, right.
Because I walk dogs, I've been in contact with them to help the homeless dogs get rehomed. I was supporting them, and then all of a sudden they've pulled me in and said, look, you should come down to the Newbury Dogs Trust in Berkshire. We can support you. We had this together through homelessness.
The People's Channel.
afternoon, Britain. It's 20 minutes to 2. Now, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, says that a trade deal between the UK and the US is highly likely.
Yes, it's an interview with the online publisher Unheard, and he says that the White House is working very hard and suggests that a US-UK trade relationship will be easier to agree to as we have a much more reciprocal relationship than perhaps the relationship with the European Union. This comes after Donald Trump insisted he could be very flexible when it comes to tariffs.
So this was the first interview that J.D. Vance has done with a European publication since taking on the role of Vice President of the United States. And of course, it comes in a time when people are questioning whether or not the United States is a reliable partner, where we are with regard to trade on the US. We thought we were in a privileged position for about 2 days with our 10% tariffs compared to the European Union's 30% tariffs, and yet now we're both at 10% for the majority of items. I mean, there are some question marks to ask over how much of a fond eye does the Trump administration really cast upon the United Kingdom?
Yes, that's a very good question. He does say that the United States is still Europe's friend, but on the condition that European leaders are prepared to assume a more independent role on the international stage, so be less reliant on the United States for security, I imagine, and also other matters, and be more responsive to their own voters, especially when it comes to the question of immigration. Now, we know J.D. Vance has highlighted quite a number of migration issues in this country, as well as the free speech stuff. So he clearly feels very passionately about trying to push for change in that respect.
But that's an interesting contradiction in my eyes. I mean, does he want the United States to be more involved in the political decisions that European countries make, or less involved?
Well, not directly involved, I suppose, but he wants to kind of support small C conservatives on the continent, doesn't he?
Right, but
so he aligns himself with the sort of right-wing leaders who want less immigration.
But how does that fit with an isolationist view of foreign policy?
Well, I don't think isolationist foreign policy means you don't care what's happening to your neighbouring continent. I think it means that you don't want to pay for all the security costs to the military and you don't want to fight wars with them.
But here's the difficulty, right? The United States spent decades squeezing European militaries out of existence. That was the foreign policy objective of the United States. I mean, we saw it most crucially during the Suez Crisis. 1956, the Brits and the French wanted to retake the Suez Canal that had just been nationalised by President Nasser of Egypt. But we weren't allowed to. Because the Americans tried to cause a run on the pound to stop us from doing our own unique and independent military action.
It's different, though, isn't it, from what J.D. Vance is saying?
But that was America turning the thumbscrews on Britain and France so that they couldn't use their own independent military action. And ever since then, Britain has never done an independent military action without the say-so of the United States. I mean, that was the consequence of the United States
Tom,
policy.
you're going on a bit now. We need to get Adam Cherry in, because he's been waiting on the line. Don't be rude to Adam. Adam is in Westminster. And so how's this interview going down in Westminster?
Well, I think they'll be dancing on the tables, won't they? Because for the last few weeks, it's been a back and forth. Will they, won't they? Will the tariffs be applied? Will they not? No one really knows. Obviously, the market not liking that uncertainty either. Now, we don't have a deal on the table yet, but it is nonetheless, it will be music to the ears of Jonathan Reynolds, who has been in Washington trying to get this deal finalised. And now you have the Vice President saying it looks like we might be able to get somewhere on this. We're working hard on it. It's interesting to look at his language specifically, because part of the reason, come to the reciprocal relationship and the EU's role or not in this, but just in terms of Trump's personal attitude towards the UK, I think that's revealing. So J.D. Vance says the president really loves the United Kingdom. He loved the Queen. He admires and loves the King. The relationship is much deeper than just a business relationship. He goes on to say there's a real cultural affinity. Now, of course, we've known this for some time, and Trump regularly referred to this throughout his first term, his love for the royal family, his mother being Scottish, and so on. Of course, he has a second state visit planned. There's a sort of soft power lever that the Prime Minister Keir Starmer pulled in February to try and soften him up a little bit. seems to have sort of worked. I mean, we still got hit with a 10% tariff, but that was applied globally. So in the broader context, this again proves that that special relationship, if it does exist, really relies on the royal family and, as Vance says, a cultural affinity. The other aspect of this, of course, is the EU's role in this, or not. If you look at what Vance says regarding Europe, specifically Germany, pretty excoriating, saying that the Europeans have basically been subsidised by the Americans over security for far too long, and it would be in America's interest and indeed Europe's to be more independent. And the UK is separate from that and has a reciprocal relationship because at the moment, of course, it is not part of that European trading bloc. It's not part of the EU.
All right, well, Adam Cherry, it's a complex picture, isn't it? We'll see when we see.
And we'll also see on the 19th of this month, when there's the UK-EU summit, whether or not we sign up to EU rules on how we regulate our food, which all the papers at the moment are suggesting that the government is going to give away our independence on our own food regulation.
And then there's the question of the old chlorinated chicken that never dies. Adam Cherry, thank you very much indeed. GB News reporter there in Westminster. The chlorinated chicken, Labour have already said they're not going to allow chlorinated chicken.
But I'm fairly sure that actually the previous negotiations with the first Trump administration had found an agreement on chlorinated chicken that wouldn't allow for its import, which I think is silly because, I mean, why wouldn't you just allow people the choice?
You can't get enough of the chlorinated chicken, can you, Tom?
Whenever I'm in the United States and I eat chicken, I always find it's delicious.
I don't even know really what chlorinated chicken means.
If you do know,
do enlighten me.
If you've ever eaten chicken in the United States, you've probably had chicken that's been washed in chlorine, and it's been fine for you.
Yes, but we should all be eating nice British chickens.
Well, but you should, as long as it's clearly labelled on the shelf by the British chicken.
Oh, you're making me...
What's the problem with having the American chicken sitting next to it on the shelf? What's the problem?
You're making me crave some chicken selects, you are. But if you have some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're hoping to get away for the rest of the Easter holidays, I'm afraid it's rather unsettled across the central Mediterranean. Heavy showers, thunderstorms and also some strong winds. Largely dry across Madeira and the rest of the Canary Islands, though, particularly after all the heavy rain recently. But as we shift our way eastwards, heavy showers affecting much of the central Mediterranean. These could have hail and also some thunder and some strong winds associated with them too. Largely dry across Greece, and it's turning largely dry for all as we head into Saturday, with temperatures widely in the mid to high teens to low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It remains unsettled. We'll see some heavy rain pushing north over the next 24 hours. The risk of some thunderstorms. Temperatures still rising in the sunshine though, particularly across the southeast. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, pushing northwards across the UK. Weather fronts showing where the heaviest rain will be, particularly across Wales, southwest England through the afternoon. A Met Office warning in force. We could see up to 75 millimetres of rain over the next 24 hours. Some localised flooding possible. Also rain clearing northeastern parts of England and eastern Scotland over the next few hours, and then showers following on behind. Temperatures reaching 18 to 19 Celsius across the southeast in any brighter spells, but cool under the cloud across some western areas. As we move through into the evening time, we can see cloudy skies across eastern parts of Scotland. The risk of some rain at times too. Best of any sunny spells across the west. 1 or 2 showers possible. Mixture of sunny spells and a few showers across parts of Northern Ireland as well. Fairly cloudy skies for Northern England and Wales. Down into the West Country we see outbreaks of heavy rain still. The wind's starting to pick up as well. We'll start to see some gales developing around the coast as we move through into this evening. As this low pressure system starts to develop and push its way northward, some heavy bursts of rain possible, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland as we head into the early hours. Some drier intervals across eastern England, northern Scotland seeing some clear skies as well, and generally with strong winds around, cloud and rain, temperatures holding up around 7 or 8 degrees. But it does mean an unsettled start to Wednesday. Further Met Office warnings come into force across Northern Ireland as the heavy rain transfers here. Some brisk winds through the Irish Sea too. Brightening up though through the day across central southern parts of the UK. Some heavy showers developing and a rain eventually moving across much of Scotland. In the sunshine, temperatures reaching around 15, 16 Celsius, but cool under the cloud and rain.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 2. Now, a lot of you have been getting in touch in all the different topics we've been talking about today.
Yeah, Philip's got in touch. He says, Tom, the UK has soft power. We can play different music on global wireless sets and send tin soldiers up and down the mall. The US has power. The Mall, sorry.
You can't send it down the mall.
US has power.
The Americans would say no.
And does what it believes is in its own interest. Yes, the United States does have more power than we do.
Yeah, I don't think
real power.
I don't think there is a big distinction between hard and soft power. I mean, everyone talks about soft power, but then when it comes to actually, I mean, trying to influence countries, it is actually hard power that really matters.
Well, yeah, one has guns. Soft power's just chatting, isn't it? Influencing behind the scenes, a bit of diplomacy,
but
a bit of a nice state visit here and there.
You try and use diplomacy. I mean, like ultimately, it's a big gunboat that will always bring about a decision rather than necessarily playing softly. That's what America's found.
Yeah, Robert says, I think Tom should host a GBN quiz so he can constantly affirm his knowledge base. Robert, I think that's a good idea, actually.
Is that which bit of knowledge did you particularly enjoy today? That's the question mark.
I think you might be being sarcastic, Tom.
Yeah. I think my Gladstone on the underground fact is really quite fun.
Yes, and then we got into we left Adam on hold, didn't we, while we were discussing
the Suez crisis.
Suez crisis, yeah. Yes, an important crisis to remember.
Now because JD Vance referenced it in the interview.
I know, but we had Adam waiting, didn't we?
Well...
Lady of the House says, Lady of the House. I met Michael Fabricant just a few weeks before he was voted in first time as MP for Lichfield. I had just bought a new house. He came and enjoyed a cup of tea and a slice of my homemade cake in my garden. It was a lovely summer's afternoon. I've met him a few times. He's a lovely, gentle person. Well, that's a nice story, Lady of the House. I hope we can come by for a cup of tea and a slice.
Absolutely, but Michael Fabricant, of course, a friend of the show. And no, I was a bit sad to see him go out first on Celebrity Big Brother.
Yeah, I think he was a bit bullied, wasn't he? I mean, to ask him a question and then when he answers the question to then accuse him of this, that and the other and then to poke him on his hair, which obviously he's sensitive about, I mean, just a bit mean, isn't it? But I guess it creates the drama. And that's the whole point.
Well, I just think the House has lost out on one of the most sort of vivid personalities there, and the show will suffer for it.
Oh, you watching, were you?
I was watching the clips on Twitter.
This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Yes, is it time to reopen the coal mines? So I think it might be.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It stays unsettled, low pressure in charge of our weather. There'll be some heavy rain, some strong winds and often quite cloudy across many parts of the UK. And we can see that on the pressure pattern. Low pressure moving up from the south, bringing outbreaks of rain. As the low pressure deepens, the winds will also strengthen, particularly around the coast. The Met Office warning out for heavy rain across parts of Wales, the West Country over the next 24 hours. The rain slowly transferring northwards into Northern Ireland, into the the early hours. Some localised flooding possible here. Elsewhere, a mixture of cloudy skies and further outbreaks of rain as we head overnight. And temperatures generally holding up 6 to 8 degrees for many of us. Windy around the coast, some local gales possible through the Irish Sea as well. So it is an unsettled start to Wednesday. However, across northern parts of Scotland, there will be some bright to sunny spells here to start the day. A northerly breeze here, temperatures around 7 or 8 degrees. But a wet start across Northern Ireland, heavy rain, some localised flooding possible, so do take care if travelling. A cloudy, wet start across the rest of England and Wales too, but improving from the southwest. Some sunny spells starting to develop. A Met Office warning still in force for western parts through Wednesday morning, but the rain transferring slowly northwards through the day. Brighter skies across central southern parts of England and Wales, but the sunshine could trigger 1 or 2 heavy showers. Remaining windy, particularly around this area of low pressure. Gales possible at times, some localised flooding as the rain continues here. Temperatures rising 15 to 17 in the sunshine, but cold under the cloud and rain. Temperatures here around 8 or 9 degrees. Into the evening time, this area of low pressure just slowly pushes its way northwards for further rain possible across many northern parts of the UK, generally dry across central southern parts of England and Wales. And the outlook is for it to stay unsettled. Further showers, some longer spells of rain at times as low pressure stays in charge, temperatures around average.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
It's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the 15th of April. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, the US is hopeful of a great deal with trade with the UK, according to the Vice President, who says Donald Trump loves Britain. Does the special relationship remain fully intact? We'll be speaking to the very man behind that fresh interview, the first interview the Vice President has conducted with a European outlet since his inauguration.
Yes, very exciting indeed. But elsewhere, there's a bit of a stench warfare going on, and it's continuing in Birmingham as the Unite Union digs its heels in over those ongoing bin strikes. There are now fears, nay warnings, that there could be nationwide action. Could we be approaching a summer of smelly discontent?
And as the UK rushes to secure the raw materials needed to keep Britain's last primary steel manufacturer running, we're asking, is it time to reopen the coal mines here at home? So the politicians want to have a degree of independence when it comes to steel-making capacity. We saw that with the overwhelming votes in Parliament over the weekend in order to grant the Business Secretary the right to control the last steel-making company in the country. So they want it built here, but they can't build it here without importing coal from overseas.
Yeah, and it's sort of like our net zero strategy as a whole, isn't it, really? We want to be nice and clean and eco-friendly in this country so that we live up to our targets that we've set for ourselves, or these decarbonisation targets and the like, that make us feel very good about ourselves, so we can go home. Like Ed Miliband goes home and thinks, you know, I'm making a greener Britain. We're not making a greener world, though, are we? Importing coal and everything else from countries as far as Japan, the United States, Australia, thousands and thousands of miles of travel. How many carbon emissions do we reckon?
It's a completely inconsistent position because, of course, if we dig coal in this country, I don't think anyone's suggesting we subsidise that in the way that we're subsidising steel production. But if we were to allow companies to dig coking coal in this country, which we seem to have forbidden companies from doing for the last decade plus, do we think that would be cleaner or less clean on average than coal that is dug around the world? Because I put it to you that the coal that would be dug in this country would be pretty much the cleanest coal that has ever been possibly dug anywhere in the world. The Environment Agency would be sure of it.
Well, I mean, there are some people who are saying that, the Cumbria coal mine wouldn't have made the right coal, wouldn't have dug the right coking coal and all of this. But if you're adding to supply, you're making it less expensive overall. But also, you're making it easier.
Is one patch in Cumbria the only place we can dig coal in the whole country?
Certainly not, Tom. Certainly not.
If that's the wrong kind of coking coal, there'll be a place that has the right kind of coking coal. We used to be the king of coking coal and all other coals. We used to be Great King Coal.
And I wonder if Ed Miliband were true to himself, would he argue that actually we shouldn't be manufacturing steel in this country at all? It's just too energy intensive, and we just shouldn't even bother in this country.
To be honest, is that an insane position?
No, but is from a net zero perspective?
I think from a net zero perspective, if you try and take a net zero world perspective, all of this conversation completely crumbles because you're going to have to import this steel from somewhere. If you want to live in some sort of parallel, peculiar net zero in one country policy, well, that's not really going to do anything for the environment.
I just find it so frustrating that it looks good, yes, on our spreadsheet in this country if we have less manufacturing and less coal and everything else, but when we're just importing it from elsewhere, it doesn't really help. gbnews.com/USA, let us know. Do you think the strategy behind net zero makes sense when it comes to British steel? But it is your headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. Let's get you up to date on the stories making the news at 2 o'clock. 2 emergency shipments of raw material have arrived in the UK to stop British Steel's blast furnaces from going cold. Iron ore and coking coal from the US are being unloaded in Birmingham and rushed to Scunthorpe, enough to keep the plant running for weeks. It comes after the government seized control of supplies when talks with Chinese owners collapsed. Ministers say the company had planned to shut the furnaces and sell off vital stock. Steelworkers have called the delivery a huge relief and a turning point for the site's future. US Vice President JD Vance says there is a good chance now of a trade deal with the UK amid global economic jitters triggered by those sweeping US tariffs. Stock markets have been reeling since Donald Trump announced 10% tariffs on nearly all imports, including from close allies like the UK and France. But signs of recovery emerged this week as the White House insisted the tariffs are a long-term play to cut trade deficits. UK government sources say talks with the US are progressing well, with a potential deal expected to go beyond just tariffs. Vance told Unheard that the UK is a stronger prospect than Germany thanks to what he described as more reciprocal relationships. In Birmingham, the bin strike is continuing after workers overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer. Unite says the deal fails to address potential pay cuts of up to £8,000 and could impact hundreds of workers. Military planners have now been called in, with 11,000 tonnes of rubbish already cleared from the streets. But public health fears are growing, with dead animals found in parks and some residents reporting rat infestations. The council, though, says its offer to workers was fair and that its door remains open. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a fatal house explosion in Nottinghamshire. Emergency crews were called to John Street in Worksop on Saturday evening, where 53-year-old David Howard was sadly found dead under debris. A 43-year-old man was questioned and has now been bailed while inquiries continue. The cause of the blast, though, remains unknown, and police say they're keeping an open mind. David's family is being supported as detectives urge anyone with information to come forward. And breaking in the last hour or so, 6 people have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 21-year-old man was stabbed to death in Kennington in south-east London. Paramedics were called to Hillingdon Street just after 9 o'clock on Monday evening, but the victim died at the scene. Police are working to trace his next of kin, and multiple crime scenes are still in place. Southwark's Borough Commander says the incident is shocking and unsettling. Officers are urging anyone with information or footage to call 101. International news now, and Russia's top spy chief says that Moscow and Minsk are ready to act proactively in response to NATO's activity near Ukraine. Sergei Naryshkin claims that European escalation is fueling the need for coordinated security measures with Belarus. He's also warned that if NATO attacks, the alliance will face damage, but says Poland and the Baltic states would suffer first of all. Meanwhile, in France, multiple prisons have come under attack overnight in what officials there fear may have been a coordinated assault. Gunfire was reported at Toulon prison, while arson and vandalism hit sites in Marseille and 8 other cities. Sources suggest far-left extremists may be targeting new high-security prison plans. The Justice Minister is heading to Toulon today to speak to shaken staff and address the nation. And as you may have noticed, the sunshine, well, it's gone, and the downpours are definitely here, with flood warnings in force across much of the UK. Yellow alerts are in place for rain and storms in the southwest, northwest and Wales as cooler and gloomier weather settles in. Milford Haven was soaked with 26 millimetres overnight, while temperatures in Newcastle dipped below freezing. The Environment Agency says surface water flooding is likely and warns that even just 30 centimetres of flowing water can float your car. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Emily.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is now 9 minutes past 2, and the Vice President of the United States, JD Vance, says that a trade deal between the UK and the US is now highly likely.
Yes, this was in an interview with the online publisher Unheard, and he says the White House is working very hard and suggests that a US-UK trade relationship will be easier to agree to, as we have a much more reciprocal relationship than with other countries. Well, this comes after Donald Trump insisted he could be very flexible when it comes to tariffs.
Well, we're joined now by the host of the Politics podcast, Justin Young, over in the United States. Justin, thanks for joining us. I mean, it does seem that it's been a wild ride over the last week and a half or so of the United States trading relationships with all countries around the world. What do you think are the genuine chances of some sort of special arrangement for Britain?
Well, I think that in general, the United States and specifically the Trump White House is looking at a post-WTO kind of world, that there's, for the majority of my lifetime, and I think for most of your audience, their lifetime, the guiding hand of American influence has come through these gigantic trade pacts and deals, multi-country deals. And what we're seeing is that the rise of more bilateral deals are going to happen because Donald Trump believes that those are easier to keep track of and enforce. Now, when it comes to the, what those deals are going to look like, the big question that I am following is how much of it is tariffs and how much of it is what Trump has really put his focus on, and that's trade deficits. The idea of non-tariff blocking of American goods into foreign markets. What I have been told is that the Trump administration in Congress is saying that deals that are going to be signed are not only just tariffs, but also commitments to buy certain amounts of American goods.
Interesting. So we may have to pledge that we'll buy a bigger proportion of US cars.
But we're one of the few countries in the world whereby we actually have a trade surplus. Sorry, America has a trade surplus with the United Kingdom.
Yes,
we have
we're special, aren't we,
have a trade deficit with the United. We almost uniquely buy more from the United States than vice versa. Virtually no other country in the world does that.
And I think that's why our vice president said this is going to be a way easier deal than it is going to be with many other countries in the European Union, because of exactly that. There have been a warmer trade relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom over the years. And so this is not going to be the same kind of situation. But also, to be totally honest, we have no idea what is going to happen, because a lot of the target seems to move and change by the minute.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk, isn't there? It seems as though this is about punishment as well, doesn't it? And I guess there's not that much to punish us for, really. I mean, J.D. Vance has spoken about cultural issues. I mean, he's spoken about immigration. He's spoken about free speech in Britain. Sources had been briefing that perhaps free speech was an issue when it came to a trade deal. So clearly there's interest in those kinds of issues. But do you suspect that it will purely just come down to economics, or how Donald Trump sees the economics play out?
I know for a fact that Donald Trump looks at these deals holistically, meaning it's not, he believes that the money that is going to come in from the American market, from access to the American market, is enough to get other things done. What I have heard is that the Chinese deal, which is obviously something that the world is keeping an eye on, not only has to do with tariffs and the ability to sell into their market in a more fair and reciprocal way from the point of view of the White House, but also the ability to sell TikTok to an American company and things of that nature. So I don't think that we have a ton of those when it comes to the United Kingdom. But when you talk about Germany, where J.D. Vance obviously had that big speech a few months ago that very much targeted Europe and their relationship with free speech, you never know. My guess is that the asks on those countries are going to be more about punishing American tech companies than they are going to be changing their free speech laws per se.
Yeah, it does seem extraordinary how often the European Union wants to sort of tax or whack the big American tech giants, mainly because they're so irritated they've regulated themselves into oblivion in the field. I mean, I think the largest tech company that's come out of Europe is Spotify, which is just an app inside the phone that is an American device. But Justin, there is another question here in terms of this entire interview with J.D. Vance, and that's talking about the militaries of other countries around the world, saying that he's fed up of the United States subsidising the defence of other countries, that he wants more other countries to sort of operate on their own terms militarily. I mean, this is a very, very big change from American policy of the last century, where America very deliberately wanted to be leading the world, very often intervened to stop other countries using their military independently, and now that's an about farce.
You know, this has been a slow-moving train in America that I really feel began with the Iraq War. You had obviously a lot of anti-war protesting with Vietnam back in the late 60s, but in our modern era, the Iraq war protests were something that I believe has stuck around in politics and now has taken root in the Republican Party, where the Democratic Party is one that is far more interventionist and internationalist when it comes to military intervention. But a lot of the arguments that you heard back then in the early aughts are now things that you hear more, which is, why is America the world's police? Why does America have to intervene all over the world? And then when it comes to Europe, specifically in the relationship with Russia, why is there a subsidization of NATO on the level that we have subsidized it? And does there need to be a forward-facing American military presence there? Or is the entirety of Europe's social safety net possible financially because they can write off their military commitments because they know that the United States will back them up? Those are big questions that now have bubbled to the very, very top of American power. And it is a very big change. There is no question that this is something that is very different than what's come before.
Absolutely, and those are questions that divide the left and the right between themselves, don't they? Justin Young, thank you very much indeed. You're the host of Politics podcast over in the United States.
Well, now back here at home, indeed in Birmingham, hardline union bosses are threatening to spread their bin strikes beyond that city and out to the rest of the country.
Yes, this comes as yesterday those on strike overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer. The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, had implored them to support it, despite usually siding with the unions.
Well, the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, has hit out at the Labour Party over the ongoing strikes.
Well, the situation in Birmingham is truly awful. It's a proper national health hazard, you know, because it could spread with many other strikes. It's a real worry. The reason the unions are doing this is they perceive the Labour government to be weak. Right at the start of Starmer's administration, he gave in to several quite big pay demands. That's why we're in the situation that we're in. How quickly Labour can resolve it, I just don't know.
OK, well, Nigel Farage clearly doesn't believe that the government are going to sort this one out. But let's speak to GB News West Midlands reporter Jack Carson, who's been on the scene for us for a little while now. This is the 6th week, isn't it, that these bin collections, this bin strike has been ongoing. Jack, what's the very latest on this? How far are we away from reaching some kind of deal that will mean that people have their bins collected on time?
Well, the Council and Unite are set to continue talking tomorrow. That is progress after 97% of the nearly 400 bin workers that are out on strike voted to reject this pay offer. So the fact they are going back to the Council tomorrow, to that building behind me, to talk to that negotiating team to try and bring an end to this dispute is, of course, progress. But Unite's deal, very different, as it seems, because of the scale of the rejection from those Unite members. It's much far between what the Council are offering and what Unite are offering. Now, as you were saying there, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner came to Birmingham last week, urged Unite to accept this offer on the table. That is obviously not the case. One of the things we've heard today is the issue now, not just with this waste and recycling collection officer role, which is the that downgrading of that role being the reason this whole dispute started, but now the situation with 200 drivers. Reassurances, it seems, as what Unite want around the position of those drivers. They do not want to see that position downgraded. We heard from Onai Kassab earlier, who told us that that could mean a pay cut of up to £10,000 in some cases for those drivers. And of course, it's been said it's £8,000 for these waste and recycling collection officer role jobs as well. So there is obviously reassurances that Unite want there from the Council on the position going forward, because what we don't want to see is this dispute end because of the loader position, but then a whole nother dispute start. The bin men go back out on strike because of the job evaluation of the drivers as well. But we've been speaking to people here in Birmingham on the high street, finding out their reaction to that deal being rejected and how they're feeling now the bin strikes look set to continue. Here's what they've told us.
I'm down here to visit my mother-in-law with my wife, bring my kids with me, 2 girls. Their perception of Birmingham based on the bin strike is what a dump. And it's somewhere it puts them off living here, either working here or studying here. They just go, Dad, despite my love for Birmingham, they go, Dad, I'd never live in Birmingham. And the bin strike sort of exacerbates that perception.
No, I'm really not happy about the bin strike. I want the people to be able to go to work and get the pay they should get. I'd like to ask you if you'd go for £8,000 pay cut and see how you'd react. Hopefully, you join a union and you go on strike and you'd fight back for it.
I can understand their point of view, but on the other side, when they're leaving Birmingham to have such a bad name across the country, because everybody's just focusing on it, it's not good for Birmingham citizens to be questioned, because I get questioned from other people to say, what's it really like and stuff.
You can hear from there are worries around the image of this city and now what this city is tainted as. But if this dispute can end, then the work in order to clean up this city can certainly start and certainly continue. We know there's now over 100 bin lorries that leave depots every morning to try and get bins collected. But while this dispute continues, those full collections will not take place and these bin strikes seem to go on.
Well, Jack Carson, thank you very much for bringing us up to date. I do hope something is resolved, and pretty quickly. I mean, it is fair enough, those people are saying, you know, people are asking me, how rubbish is it in Birmingham right now? It's not great for your sense of pride and belonging, is it?
No, not at all. And,
be embarrassed of where you live.
Sad. Very, very sad. But let's hope the unions can stop holding everyone to ransom. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Time for the Great British Giveaway now. It's our biggest prize to date, and it's your chance to enjoy as many getaways as you like in your very own 4-berth motorhome, worth over £67,000. Here are all the details you need.
You could be spending your summer in style, on the road in this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. It sleeps 4, comes with integrated kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comfortably has space for all the family. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. It's our biggest prize package ever, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
4.2 million people in this country are living in hygiene poverty. That means they are having to daily make a choice between putting food on the table for themselves and their family, paying the rent, paying their bills, and buying the basic everyday essentials we all rely on.
And there must be such a stigma attached to, well, there is, we know that, to hygiene as well, because this isn't talked about. I mean, we're talking here this morning, 1 in 12 British people have to make a decision between eating and washing, but we never hear about that, do we? It's not spoken about.
You're absolutely right. We have, scarily normalised the conversation about food poverty and fuel poverty in this country. And what my charity, the Hygiene Bank, wants to do is to take one step on that road to ending hygiene poverty by abolishing VAT on soap, treating it as the basic staple that we all need every day. It's the first line of defence against illness and disease. Helps to keep us all safe.
It's a confidence thing as well, isn't it? If people are really struggling, that can affect your confidence and mental health and all the rest of it. But if you also know there's even the slight possibility of not smelling fresh, for example. But, I mean, that can totally destroy you in a workplace.
Completely. And we hear every day about children who are bullied in school or who are not going to school because their uniform isn't clean or they feel stinky. They're being bullied by their peers. We know that 13% of people living in hygiene poverty have avoided work for exactly that reason. 9% of people have avoided going to a job interview, and that's so wrong because it is trapping you in your difficulties. Hygiene poverty is limiting life chances, it's blocking opportunities, it's stopping people find a way out of the hard times they find themselves in. And the thing that I always remind myself is that we're all actually only one step away from this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 25 minutes past 2. Now, as the UK rushes to secure the raw materials needed to keep Britain's last steel manufacturer up and running, is it time to reopen the coal mines?
It sounds a mad question, considering the history of coal mining in this country, but is it an important one to ask? It follows, of course, emergency action to stop Chinese-owned Jingi, is that how you pronounce it, from shutting the furnaces down altogether.
Well, this morning, 55,000 tonnes of coal from Japan was unloaded at Birmingham port.
And we're also importing from the United States and even from Australia.
Well, that's quite a way for all of these lumps of coal to be shipped on those container ships all the way around the world.
Yeah, we're looking at a map here that's been beautifully designed. Now, actually, the coal will have come by sea. Well, by ocean, by ship. So this is more of a flight path, but it shows how far it is.
It won't be going through the Suez Canal either because of the Houthis. So we're going around the Horn of Africa.
That's good to point out, actually.
South Africa as well.
Not everywhere is safe.
Yeah.
Is it time to open the mines? Should we speak to journalist and author Ross Clark, who's an expert on all things to do with such matters? Ross, it does seem a little bit of a contradiction, perhaps ironic, I don't know, that we're making sure that we shut off all coal mining in this country, Ed Miliband is, yet we're importing it from as far as Australia.
Yeah, well, I mean, the tragedy behind all this is, of course, there was a project to open a coking coal, metallurgical coal mine at Whitehaven in Cumbria, but that was absolutely squashed by the government. Well, it was given permission by the previous government, then the High Court chucked out the planning application after challenged by environmental protesters, and then Ed Miliband didn't support it. So, you know, that source of coking coal has been completely lost to us.
Some Labour...
we're relying on...
Some Labour MPs have been saying that actually the coal from West Cumbria would have been of limited use anyway to steelmakers because it's got a high sulphur content. Now, I'm no expert on high sulphur contents of coal, but would that have been an issue, Ross? Do you know?
Well, I mean, directly, this coal would have been no use to the Scunthorpe works because 2 years ago, the British Steel there closed the coking works. I mean, you take the metallurgical coal, then you've got to heat it up to produce the coke, which is then used by the steel works. And 2 years ago, British Steel closed that facility at Scunthorpe, so directly we couldn't use coking coal anyway. So we have to import now coke, not just the coal. And coke is actually produced quite a lot in Japan, which doesn't have a lot of its own coal, but it does produce the coke for the steel-making factories. So it's a sort of global web of supply chain, which is, you know, I'd say it's a triumph of globalization in a way. It's the kind of just-in-time supply chain of which some economists dream about. But in this case, it seems it may not quite be in time.
But here's the irony, right? That we had Parliament recalled on Saturday, passing this emergency legislation to seize control of this steel company, to make sure that it can continue to operate in this country, because the government view it of absolute national importance that we have an independent supply of steel making in this country that isn't subject to the whims of the global market. And yet you just go one level below the actual production of the steel, and it turns out we don't have any bloomin' coke in this country. So we're not insulated from the whims of the global market. We might as well be importing the bloomin' steel.
Yes, and well, I mean, to be honest, though, we couldn't have a sort of totally self-reliant steel industry because we don't have much iron ore left anymore either. That's the other great raw material. I mean, when we were the world's greatest steel maker in the 19th century, we mined iron ore locally, but that's mostly been worked out. Apparently there's about 10 people still mine iron ore in Britain. Most of it we import from Sweden, Australia, Canada, Brazil. So, you know, we can't actually have an entirely self-reliant steel industry
So
anymore.
all the politicians have been lying to us. I mean, if their genuine justification for nationalising a company at the cost, I read today that it would take 8 full-time taxpayers to pay the wages of just one steel worker's salary. I mean, it's an incredibly inefficient way to preserve jobs. But if this isn't even for an issue of national security, because we don't have the ore, we don't have the coke, I mean, we're only compiling stuff in this country that we're importing, I mean, what on earth is the justification for nationalising this?
Well, and also the government's been trying to tell us the last few years that this is an obsolete technology using blast furnaces. They want to replace it with electric arc furnaces, which can only recycle steel. And then suddenly we get to this point where government's panicking and decided, well, perhaps we do need a virgin steel industry after all. But it does rather seem rather doomed, doesn't it? You know, the Jinge was claiming it's losing £700,000 a day. Why the government thinks that will be any better, the economics will be any better if it's under government control, I struggle to understand.
Well, Ross Clark, thank you very much indeed. Keep struggling to understand this for us because it's very perplexing, isn't it? Ross Clark, journalist and author, thank you very much indeed. I mean, for me, it's not the ins and outs of the British steel and whether we should be making it here or not. That's the annoying thing. The annoying thing is that we have all of our politicians and, of course, Ed Miliband, the king of all of this, preaching about net zero in this country. But then on so many fronts, not just when it comes to coal, on so many fronts, we're just exporting the carbon emissions to other countries far away and then importing the goods that they make from fossil fuels and the like. I mean, It just doesn't make sense at all. I don't understand who it serves. I can't see that it's anything other than virtue signalling. I mean, if you're or a desperate hope that we'll achieve it somehow.
Yeah, if it's being framed as a net zero issue, it's patently bollocks. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I really do apologise for that language. That's
rubbish. Rubbish.
That's not appropriate at this time of the day. It's patently nonsense, is what I was going to say. But I do see an argument behind specialisation. I mean, this is what's been developed by economists in this country for centuries. The idea that some countries are better at doing things than other countries, and you trade, and everyone's better off because of that.
Well, there we go. Let us know your thoughts. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. I mean, that map was quite enlightening, wasn't it? Just seeing how far this stuff is coming in from. We've got lots more coming up on today's show. Yes, we're going to be speaking to the man who conducted that interview in Unheard with JD Vance, the Vice President. He had some interesting things to say about the prospect of a trade deal. Stay with us.
Very good afternoon to you. It's just after 2:30. The top story this afternoon. 2 emergency shipments of raw materials have arrived in the UK to stop British Steel's blast furnaces from going cold. Iron ore and coking coal from the US are being unloaded in Birmingham and rushed to the Scunthorpe plant, enough to keep it running for weeks. It comes after the government seized control of supplies when talks with Chinese owners collapsed. Ministers say the company had planned to shut the furnaces and sell off vital stock. Steelworkers have called the delivery a huge relief and a turning point for the site's future. The Birmingham bin strike is continuing after workers overwhelmingly rejected the council's latest pay offer. Unite says the deal fails to address potential pay cuts of up to £8,000 and could impact hundreds of workers. Military planners have now been called in with 11,000 tonnes of rubbish already cleared from the streets. But public health fears are growing with dead animals found in parks and some residents reporting rat infestations. 6 people have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 21-year-old man was stabbed to death in Kennington in south-east London. Paramedics were called to Hillingdon Street just after 9 o'clock on Monday evening, but the victim died at the scene. Police say they're working to trace his next of kin and multiple crime scenes remain in place. Southwark's borough commander says the incident is shocking and unsettling. Officers are now urging anyone with information or footage to call 101. And the sunshine's gone and the downpours are on their way, with flood warnings in force across much of the UK. Yellow alerts are in place for rain and storms in the southwest, the northwest and Wales as cooler and gloomier weather settles in. Milford Haven was soaked with 26 millimetres overnight, while temperatures in Newcastle dipped below freezing. The Environment Agency says surface water flooding is likely and warns that just 30 centimetres of flowing water can float your car. That's it from me for this afternoon. Sophia Wensler will have a full roundup at 3 o'clock and Tom and Emily will be back with you after this.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. The latest AI travel news from gbnews.com brings updates on current road conditions across the UK. The M8 Junction 6A on-slip westbound is currently closed due to essential roadworks, with diversions clearly marked for motorists. Similarly, between Junction J35 Pencode and Junction J37 Pyle, all lanes on the M4 westbound have been shut for resurfacing work, with alternate routes in place. A broken-down vehicle on Surrey's M25 anti-clockwise exit slip at Junction 10 has led to the closure of one lane out of 2. However, normal traffic conditions are expected to return shortly. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20-3. Now the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, says a trade deal between Britain and the United States is highly likely.
And in an interview with online publisher Unheard, he says the White House is working very hard and suggests that a US-UK trade relationship will be easier to agree to as we have a much more reciprocal relationship than the United States does with other countries.
Well, let's speak to the journalist who got those great lines, that exclusive interview with the US Vice President, Sorab Armari. Thanks for joining us so much. I mean, this is an interview that has clearly rocked news websites today. What did you get a sense of from the Vice President, speaking to him as you did yesterday? Did you get a sense that this is really a change of tack that we're going to see from the United States on all countries, or that Britain's going to be treated differently?
Well, thanks for having me. The interview was notable foremost, I think, for just the reconciliatory tone that Vice President Vance struck over the past few months. As you know, he's issued a number of fairly harsh statements about the European leadership, the mainstream European leadership. And he still conveyed those same ideas. He thinks, for example, he said that European voters keep voting for less migration and yet they get rewarded with more migration, for example, or that European countries, with the exception of Britain, France, and Poland, are not shouldering their burden in terms of mutual defense. However, he couched it all in a softer tone, I would say, a warmer tone, and especially singling out Britain for that warmth. He highlighted the fact that President Trump has this kind of personal affection for Britain, that that the president loved Her Late Majesty Queen Elizabeth, that the president loves and admires the king, I quote directly, and he has important business relationships in Britain. All of that, plus the fact that Britain already has a fairly reciprocal trade relationship with the United States compared to some other European countries, leads him to conclude that a UK-US trade deal is in the offing. Likely, of course, he said, I can't guarantee, and he doesn't want to prejudge it, but that it's looking good.
I mean, the markets are all over the place at the moment, Sorab, but we seem to have moved them over here with this one interview. The FTSE has apparently surged off the back of J.D. Vance's comments that seem to suggest a trade deal is well on the way. When a Vice President of the United States says we're working very hard and sounds all positive, do we need to be a bit cautious about what that actually means in reality? Because, you know, it's easy to say positive things, it's easy to say there's lots of work going on behind the scenes, and yes, it's going to be easier than with other countries. But I imagine the time frame is still quite prolonged.
Oh, absolutely. And again, ultimately, I should note that even in our interview, he said, quote, I don't want to prejudge the issue. So there's much work to be done. And yes, the bottom line, there's no guarantees in this world about many things, and not least trade deals between two large powers.
Now, elsewhere in this interview, a huge chunk of it focused on the military, focused on Vice President Vance's views on what European countries should be doing, spending much more of their own GDPs on their armed forces. And interestingly, I found this absolutely fascinating, he spontaneously drew up the example of the Suez Crisis back in 1956, saying that perhaps the Americans went too far in preventing the British and the French from acting alone. I wonder if he was sort of subtly, subconsciously perhaps, referencing that leaked group chat message where he was sort of saying, oh, I hate bailing out the Europeans again. Because, of course, he did receive a bit of pushback from that online, pointing out that when the Europeans did try to secure the Suez Canal back in the 50s, the Americans stopped them.
Yeah, well, I'm not in his internal subjective state, so I don't know if that was a subconscious channeling of that. What I will say is that we live in such a turbulent period in history that the fact that the sitting Vice President of the United States said that Eisenhower was wrong in the course of the Suez crisis and Britain and France were in the right isn't even the top item in the story. In a normal world, that would be a huge story, because for a lot of Americans, especially Americans of a kind of foreign policy hawkish bent, The Suez Crisis is really a moment of pride. It's a moment in which American global primacy is seen to, in a decisive way, overshadow or eclipse the former global sort of hegemon, namely Great Britain. I mean, much more so than World War II, that was the moment in which the United States could really order around to other allied countries, France and Britain. So for him to say, hey, maybe we denigrated our allies and put them in a position where they have to be, as he said, they feel like vassals and not independent allies, maybe that wasn't such a good thing. I think this is the kind of thing that makes the vice president such an intriguing character. He's an intellectual. He's willing to, re-engage history and reconsider certain things that are taken for granted among the kind of Washington foreign policy establishment.
And so, just lastly, I think, how do you get the impression that J.D. Vance very deeply cares about what's going on in Europe? Because, of course, the mantra is America first and putting American economy, American people first and first. But J.D. Vance spends a lot of time talking about the future of the European continent, particularly, as you mentioned, when it comes to immigration, but also when with Britain in terms of free speech and everything like this. He seems to be extremely passionate. Do you believe that's genuine?
I do. I think in the same way that the United States goaded much of the democratic West in the wake of the Cold War and after the Cold War into adopting neoliberal globalization and open borders and the free movement of goods, services, and human beings. In the same way, I think Vice President Vance and the Trump administration as a whole is promoting a kind of reversal of that and wants the rest of the world, or the rest of the democratic world, to come along. It's a kind of populist model that he wants to promote, so that he really does care about the fact that, when voters in Germany or elsewhere register their discontent at the ballot box with too high rates of migration, it doesn't really change the policy because the center left, center right elites have such a lock and prevent meaningful policy changes.
And so interesting how he says that sort of the Americans feel almost of European stock, feel Anglophone in a way, but also feel that they care so much about what goes on in Europe because that's what sort of built the culture of the United States. Sorab Armari, I wish we could have much more time, but I'm afraid we're going to have to end it there. Thanks so much for being with us here on GB News.
Well, let us know what you make of that. But if you're in search of some holiday sun in the meantime, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're hoping to get away for the rest of the Easter holidays, I'm afraid it's rather unsettled across the central Mediterranean. Heavy showers, thunderstorms and also some strong winds. Largely dry across Madeira and the rest of the Canary Islands, though, particularly after all the heavy rain recently. But as we shift our way eastwards, heavy showers affecting much of the central Mediterranean. These could have hail and also some thunder and some strong winds associated with them too. Largely dry across Greece, and it's turning largely dry for all as we head into Saturday, with temperatures widely in the mid to high teens to low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It remains unsettled. We'll see some heavy rain pushing north over the next 24 hours. The risk of some thunderstorms. Temperatures still rising in the sunshine though, particularly across the southeast. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, pushing northwards across the UK. Weather fronts showing where the heaviest rain will be, particularly across Wales, southwest England through the afternoon. A Met Office warning in force. We could see up to 75 millimetres of rain over the next 24 hours. Some localised flooding possible. Also rain clearing northeastern parts of England and eastern Scotland over the next few hours, and then showers following on behind. Temperatures reaching 18 to 19 Celsius across the southeast in any brighter spells, but cool under the cloud across some western areas. As we move through into the evening time, we can see cloudy skies across eastern parts of Scotland. The risk of some rain at times too. Best of any sunny spells across the west. 1 or 2 showers possible. Mixture of sunny spells and a few showers across parts parts of Northern Ireland as well. Fairly cloudy skies for Northern England and Wales. Down into the West Country, we see outbreaks of heavy rain still. The wind's starting to pick up as well. We'll start to see some gales developing around the coast as we move through into this evening. As this low-pressure system starts to develop and push its way northward, some heavy bursts of rain possible, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland as we head into the early hours. Some drier intervals across eastern England, northern Scotland seeing some clear skies as well. And generally with strong winds around, cloud and rain, temperatures holding up around 7 or 8 degrees. But it does mean an unsettled start to Wednesday. Further mental risk warnings come into force across Northern Ireland as the heavy rain transfers here. Some brisk winds through the Irish Sea too. Brightening up though through the day across central southern parts of the UK. Some heavy showers developing and the rain eventually moving across much of Scotland. In the sunshine, temperatures reaching around 15-16 Celsius, but cool under the cloud and rain.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 to 3, and Harry Potter fans have been left divided after the first members of the cast for the new HBO Harry Potter TV series have been revealed.
Yes, the announcement has sparked controversy after it was confirmed that British actor Papa Sidhu has been casted as Professor Severus Snape, taking over from the role left by Alan Rickman.
Or even cast. Well, some fans have been blasted the US production for supposedly race-swapping this character. But a Harry Potter fan account with almost 500,000 followers has hit out at the news and taken to Twitter to say they haven't even started filming this TV series and they've already ruined it. So much for being a faithful adaptation of the books.
Well, I mean, on this one, I think, because he's not a historical figure, it doesn't matter. It's not like they've made Henry VIII black or Asian. So this is just a fictional character. But let's see.
Would you mind if James Bond was black?
I don't care.
Okay.
Fictional, eh?
But I mean, went to public school, you know.
Anyway. Alex Davies, GB News digital entertainment editor.
Yes.
What do you reckon? Tell us.
Well, speaking of James Bond, this was a man who was actually tied to play the next James Bond, so he's not short of roles. He's a very talented actor, Papa Sidhu. He's been in lots of great things, Gangs of London, I May Destroy You, things like that. But yeah, this is the casting that's caused quite a bit of controversy, mainly because of that phrase that HBO were going to keep this to be a faithful adaptation of the books. Now, Snape in the books is described as a thin man with greasy shoulder-length black hair, a hooked nose, sallow skin and cold black eyes. And that's the point that a lot of critics have seemed to grab and run with on this. But he's not the only one who's been cast. They've announced some other actors that are going to take part and take over from some of the most iconic characters. You just saw there Nick Frost. He's going to take on the role of Hagrid. Nick Frost, obviously, from the Shaun of the Dead and the Hot Fuzz films. That's Janet McTeer. She's going to play Professor McGonagall. That's John Lithgow. He's taken over from Michael Gambon as Dumbledore. And, as I just mentioned, Papa Sidhu as Snape.
So the book describes Snape as having sallow skin.
Alan Rickman literally nailed it to a T when he played it, yeah. And I think that's really where a lot of the controversy stems from. A lot of people, whether they think it's... But Alan Rickman was sort of an iconic character, an iconic actor in that role himself. So if you were to cast somebody who looked like him, you may argue that it'd look like you were imitating it, and it may not come across. Whereas this is a totally new reimagining.
It's going to be the same with Michael Gambon with a big beard. He's going to look very similar, surely.
Well, sure, but I mean, like I said, it's that phrase that HBO and J.K. Rowling is involved as well.
Thanks very much indeed for talking us through that. That's all we have time for today.
Yes, that's Alex Davis, our entertainment editor.
Hello, guys. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for watching.
On my show
Don't go anywhere. Martin is
today, a
up
poll
next.
out say 68% of Brits think Britain is broken. Is that true? And if so, what do you think is driving that? Could it be immigration, cost of living? Could it be spiralling taxes? Could it be actually the bin strikes in Birmingham, which look to be spreading nationwide? And next up, could there be an Islamic takeover in British jails? British prison officers scared of being decapitated? I'll be joined by Ian Aitchison, who's the head of the investigation into Islamism and British terrorism in British prisons, saying he thinks that there could be a murder soon unless a severe clampdown happens. That's all on my show 3 till 6. Join me then, but first, here's your weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It stays unsettled, low pressure in charge of our weather. There'll be some heavy rain, some strong winds and often quite cloudy across many parts of the UK. And we can see that on the pressure pattern. Low pressure moving up from the south, bringing outbreaks of rain. As the low pressure deepens, the winds will also strengthen, particularly around the coast. The Met Office warning out for heavy rain across parts of Wales, the West Country over the next 24 hours. The rain slowly transferring northwards into Northern Ireland into the early hours. Some localised flooding possible here. Elsewhere, a mixture of cloudy skies and further outbreaks of rain as we head overnight. And temperatures generally holding up 6 to 8 degrees for many of us. Windy around the coast, some local gales possible through the Irish Sea as well. So it is an unsettled start to Wednesday. However, across northern parts of Scotland, there will be some bright to sunny spells here to start the day. A northerly breeze here, temperatures around 7 or 8 degrees. But a wet start across Northern Ireland, heavy rain, some localised flooding possible, so do take care if travelling. A cloudy, wet start across the rest of England and Wales too, but improving from the southwest. Some sunny spells starting to develop. A Met Office warning still in force for western parts through Wednesday morning, but the rain transferring slowly northwards through the day. Brighter skies across central southern parts of England and Wales, but the sunshine could trigger 1 or 2 heavy showers. Remaining windy, particularly around this area of low pressure. Gales possible at times, some localised flooding as the rain continues here. Temperatures rising 15 to 17 in the sunshine, but cold under the cloud and rain. Temperatures here around 8 or 9 degrees. Into the evening time, this area of low pressure just slowly pushes its way northwards for further rain possible across many northern parts of the UK, generally dry across central southern parts of England and Wales. And the outlook is for it to stay unsettled. Further showers, some longer spells of rain at times as low pressure stays in charge. Temperatures around average.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call